I wouldn't donate to Wikipedia. If you said you'd give me $100 if I had to give 20 of it to Wikipedia, I wouldn't do it.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, we're back on Macrodosing. We got myself, Big T, the Wonton Don in studio, Mac McKenzie behind the glass. Arian is not allowed to be on Macrodosing this week because of Surviving Barstool. When's that coming out, by the way?
It starts coming out Black Friday.
Okay, Black Friday. So that's why we taped the Nano Dose a little bit early, and it was voicemails. But we wanted to do an episode this week. So, yeah, we'll just roll. And Donnie's in studio, so Donnie's always a great guest on the show. So we'll be good. We're going to talk about Thomas Jefferson a little bit today because we kind of touched on him a little bit last week. A man of contrasts, Thomas Jefferson. Maybe the biggest do as I say, not as I do guy in history.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to think about that for a while, but it seems about right.
Yeah. So he contains multitudes. But before we get to that, there's some other stuff we got to talk about today. Big T, real quick. We didn't really talk about Tennessee football because we pre-recorded the episode.
Yep.
You got to be pretty happy with how things are sitting.
Big
Oklahoma
win.
Is Oklahoma SEC?
I don't even still consider Missouri and A&M part of the SEC, so it's going to be
that.
a long, long time before I come to terms with Oklahoma and Texas.
Well, A&M they kind of earned their way into the SEC like their first year, right? When they beat Bama.
A&M is much more part of the SEC than Missouri is.
Yeah.
And so Texas makes a little more sense since it was already an SEC state in quotation marks. Oklahoma, from all accounts of all the Tennessee fans that were there, amazing people. Everybody was very nice, I heard.
That's not SEC.
It depends. But, you know, it was a big game. We went in there and won it.
Impressively.
Yeah. It kind of sucks that it was we won by 10 points on the road against a top 15 team, but we really could have, if we had our tackles, we would have scored 40 points in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And their touchdown came at the very end. Like, it easily could have been 40-9.
Yeah. It was never close.
No.
Never felt like the game was in jeopardy, even from the start. But the Oklahoma backup, I think, is better. I think he's going to be the starter.
Yeah, Jackson Arnold, what a so he was right. It was in the 2023 quarterback class. It was Nico and Arch were 1 and 2, depending on what service you looked at, and Jackson Arnold was 3 in pretty much all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to be playing at Rice next year, it appears.
Where was A&M's quarterback ranked?
A&M, Connor Wegman?
Yeah.
He wasn't the 23 class, but he was very highly rated. He was an Elite 11 guy, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so things are looking good for the University of Tennessee. How about that?
Really good football team. Amazing defense.
Yeah, very good defense. They're almost as good as JMU.
JMU gave up 50 points on Saturday?
Yeah, but here's the thing. We also had 2 interceptions, forced fumble. We had a pick 6.
Now, they scored 70, so giving up 50 is fine.
Yeah, giving up 50 is fine if you can score 70.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that trade-off every time. Yeah, the defense does look a little suspect, but we played good defense in every other game.
I live bet the total in that game. I took the over at, I believe it was 95.5. I was like, you just have to do it at that point. And it was like 41-20 at that point, I think, or 41-14 maybe. And then they got the pick 6 right before halftime. They may have scored twice before halftime, actually, and then it hit in the third quarter.
It was nuts. We had 53 points in the first half.
Crazy.
In that game, and then we made Mac Brown retire.
Yeah,
Mac Brown quit,
and then he unretired like an hour later.
I heard from somebody that as close as you can get to being in that locker room, and Mac Brown definitely quit. He definitely quit in front of the team,
but had unquit by the time everybody wrote the story.
Yeah, because it was emotional. He was like, "I quit. Okay, I'll come back."
Like in the story, they were like, Mac Brown after the game told the team he was retiring, and then he said, "Just kidding."
Yeah, it was out of frustration, and then he was like, "I think his spin zone was that the team asked him to come back."
I think it would have been awesome if he retired.
It would have been great. That would have been as good as like a playoff berth for JMU. We made Mac Brown retire from UNC.
Yeah,
that's how
that would be a badge of honor.
So, yeah, I think JMU is good. We got some playmakers. Our quarterback's very, very good. We got a running back that reminds me a little bit of Danny Woodhead, Purdy. Just got put on scholarship. We got safety, who reminds me a little bit of Harrison Smith.
Okay.
You know, a lot of Holy Cross guys.
Right.
A lot of Holy Cross guys.
Speaking of Holy Cross guy, was that intentional?
What?
Oh, you know who's a Holy Cross guy?
Oh, no, I didn't know. He is?
The UNLV quarterback.
Yes,
he transferred from Holy Cross.
That's what we wanted to talk about. So UNLV had a quarterback. I say had because he says that he's leaving the program. He was a Holy Cross quarterback, transferred in, was promised. What are the details? How much money was he told he was going to get in NIL?
So he was apparently told by an assistant coach he could get $100,000. Some have said under the condition he became the starter, which you can't actually do. Then he gets there and they give him a $3,000 stipend to move.
Okay.
And then I guess the assistant had never run that by the NIL people. Whoever, somewhere there was a disconnect, and they said, we'll give you $3,000 a month for 4 months. So $12,000, which is $88,000 fewer than he was promised. So he said, fuck it, I quit, and I'm preserving my red shirt for this year so he can go play somewhere next year.
Okay.
Now, UNLV started leaking to reporters that he was making money and went to the coach and was demanding more now that they're playing really well. But it seems like that's probably untrue. And it's his course of events story makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know, who do you go to?
Yeah, what's the going rate for a transfer quarterback at UNLV? It's $100,000. Does that sound realistic?
Bud Elliott this morning was saying he reached out to a bunch of group of 5 people who said 50, 60, 70, but Boise State, Memphis, teams like that with a little more money might pay more. But that, that's not crazy unreasonable. The problem is they actually got 2 transfer quarterbacks this year. And Sluka, the guy who's now redshirting, won the starting job, and I guess was told you'll get $100,000. I don't know if it was whoever becomes the starter gets $100,000 or what the promise was, which is obvious why you can't put that in writing. That would be a clear violation.
Yeah. Well, the rules are all kind of made up.
For sure. And there's no matter which side you're on, there's a clear solution to this.
What's that?
You sign a contract.
Yeah. Yes. Put it in writing.
Make them an employee. And whether these kids are out of control or college football's out of control, making all these offers and not following up on them, that's the solution for both.
Yeah. Because otherwise you could just tell students, yeah, I'd be able to get you $250,000. And then if they're good, then you're like, okay, I can find the money. And if they're bad, then you're like, what are you going to do? Actually, our friend Trill Withers had a good tweet about it. Did you see that?
Yeah, it's like drug deals.
He said, yeah, it's the modern day drug deal gone wrong. Like if you have a dispute, who are you going to complain to? Because there's no enforcement body. There's no real legal way that this is all buttoned up. So if you screw over a student, or if for some reason the student is in a situation where they're not fulfilling their end of the bargain for the NIL money, then there's really nothing you can do except just have a public dispute about it. Just get messy.
The thing about UNLV is, too, for those who may not know, they're one of the 2 or 3 group of 5 teams that are the favorite to get that playoff spot right now.
So who is it?
UNLV, Boise.
Liberty in the mix?
Yeah.
Their schedule is so bad.
But after they got killed last year, I don't think, even if they go undefeated, I don't think they'll give it to them.
JMU?
JMU for sure is.
Dude, what if we made the playoff?
South Florida, even though they lost to Bama and Miami, which you would think might not count against them, but who knows? Who
would be the number 5 seed right now?
Right now?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just hard to say with who would win the conferences.
Maybe.
Right, it would be the second best team in the SEC. So
it could be Tennessee,
Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, Alabama.
What if we got JMU, Tennessee in the first round of the playoffs?
That'd be awesome.
What's the spread?
At Neyland, Tennessee would be.
We would have to go.
Oh, no question. Tennessee would be a 20.5 point favorite.
That's respectable.
JMU.
That's respectable. I'll take that. Listen, UNC was, I think, 10.5 points, and we beat them by what?
20.
20. So
you could maybe beat Tennessee by 10.
I think it would be a good matchup.
You can't score 70 on Tennessee is the problem.
I think it'd be a good matchup. Well, you don't know about our Danny Woodhead Jr. that we got back there.
I watched the whole game.
Purdy.
They're a good team.
Yeah. Playmakers. We got playmakers.
That'd be so awesome.
I would. We would 100% go to that.
For sure.
That's what I'm rooting for now. I want the Volunteers.
And the 5th seed, we've discussed this a little bit. The 5th seed is, in terms of the seed you would want, it goes number 1 and then number 5.
Yeah, because you get a home game against probably a cupcake.
It depends, but like Boise and JMU are teams that could certainly beat somebody. I don't know that they're beating Tennessee or Texas or whoever, but there are teams out there that they could beat. And then you get the 4 seed, which is going to be like Utah or somebody. So whoever wins the Big 12.
Yeah, that's a great place to be.
Yeah,
I think we could beat Oregon.
Oregon?
Yeah.
No. You could beat Utah.
I think we could beat Oregon.
I don't think you can beat Oregon.
Maybe I'm just thinking to the first 2 games of the season.
Of the teams that could make the playoff that JMU could beat, they could beat whoever wins the Big 12.
Yep.
They could beat Penn State for sure.
There are going to be a lot of Penn State fans that are not happy with that statement.
I mean, they damn near lost to Bowling Green.
Yeah. I'm excited. About to get some good weeks of football.
Good football team. Chesney looks like a nice coach.
Yeah, that's the thing is he's so competent and looks so good. Like everything is under control for JMU. He's going to get hired by a Power 4 conference.
He came from Holy Cross, right?
Yeah.
So this Sluka guy, this could be you right now.
Yeah.
This could be your predicament.
There, but for the grace of God, go I.
Exactly.
I wonder why he didn't go to JMU. Probably because of the NIL money.
Yeah, I don't
UNLV.
know. Did y'all's quarterback was a transfer or was he already there?
He actually won the starting job last year, but then had an injury issue, and McLeod took over. McLeod was really good last year, so he didn't get it back. But yeah, we got a quarterback. Also, I got 2 quarterbacks. I got JMU. And
you were in Cincinnati for that game?
I got Jayden, baby. It was so fun.
How is Cincinnati? I'm sure you didn't have much time to explore this last trip.
Cincinnati's it's cool. I like it. It's got the river going through it. You're right there next to Kentucky.
So it's got a river and it's got Skyline Chili.
Skyline Chili and a cool little downtown area with a bunch of bars. People are very friendly there from what I gathered. I got to hang out with the mayor before the game, which was cool. Shit. So Billy and I met the mayor when we went through Cincinnati. When was that? 2000. It was the LA Super Bowl. So was that 22? Yeah.
You guys just had a quick pit stop with the mayor.
We interviewed the mayor. Yeah. And Billy right off the bat was like, tell me the real story about what happened to Harambe. I think he said, let's put our cards on the table after about 2 minutes. He's like, put your cards on the table. What happened to Harambe? He was like, well, I wasn't the mayor when Harambe was shot, but I don't really know what to tell you. But yeah, we had a nice little, we had 3 beers, I'm going to say, with the mayor. So nice little hang. And then we made a mayor's bet where if the Commanders won, he was going to get me 24 cans of Skyline Chili. And if the Bengals won, he was going to get my big-ass Mega Jeans.
Okay.
Yeah, he liked the Mega Jeans. So the mayor of Cincinnati is currently in debt to me for 24 cans of Skyline Chili. I'm going to need that stat.
The question I wanted to ask you, if the Bears called the Commanders right now.
No.
Just it's not a yes or no question.
You could say the Chiefs.
It's not a yes or no question. And they said, we'll give you Caleb Williams and X amount of first-round picks for Jayden Daniels. How many would it have to be?
I don't think there's a number.
If they said Caleb Williams and 5 first-round picks.
I don't think there. It's tricky because I think Caleb Williams is going to be great. I think he's a very, very good quarterback. But I got Jayden. I don't want to. No one can even look at Jayden. Don't even say his name.
He looked. That throw he had on the touchdown in the back corner of the end zone was unbelievable.
One of the best throws I've ever seen. It was crazy. He was getting hit.
You didn't know it was a touchdown for 2 minutes.
Yeah, unfortunately, you were at the part of the field the furthest away. From that.
I was in the back corner of the other end zone, and all I knew was the crowd went totally silent. And so I was like, that's a good thing. Everyone's silent. If it was incomplete, people would be going nuts.
Could you not see the ref?
No, I couldn't see shit because
you were so far away.
You've also got all the players on the field standing in between you and the ref in the back of that end zone. So I'm screened off from it. All I know, because I wasn't watching the Jumbotron at the time. I was watching the play on the field. And I was like, that was a crazy throw. I hope Jayden's okay. and because he got walloped on that play. I think it was a safety coming on the blitz and just got crushed. So it took me about, I'd say, 5 seconds of real life time to figure out that it was a touchdown. And yeah, it was so cool. I've watched that play a million times. But that wasn't the play that made me feel really good. Obviously, that's a play that I've watched probably, if I'm being completely honest, I've probably watched it about 100 times on replay. But the part that made me feel really good was all the other stuff he did on like 2nd and long, 3rd and long, 3rd and short, 4th downs. He was just like completely in control. He was not flustered. He was telling people where to line up. He was hitting guys like 13 yards downfield on a 4th and 3. And he just looked, man, he looks so good. I just want to bottle that feeling. I want to bottle that feeling and think about it. Just feel it for the rest of my life.
He looks real nice.
Yeah, but if you were to offer me, like, if I'm being completely serious here, if the Chiefs called and said, we'll trade you Patrick Mahomes for Jayden Daniels, I would probably say yes.
Okay, good answer.
If the Bills called and said, we'll trade you Josh Allen for Jayden Daniels, I don't
know that you do that one.
I would probably say yes. Probably.
You
but
think?
I don't know. I'd have to think about it.
I don't know that you do that
Well, because think about it, if you got Josh Allen in the NFC, he doesn't have to go through Mahomes to get to a Super Bowl anymore.
Sure.
So that means
how old is he now? 28, 29?
That sounds, let's see, he was drafted in
28.
2018. 28?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, 12 more years of Josh Allen, potentially.
Yeah, maybe you do that one.
But name any other quarterback.
Kirk Cousins.
No. Get the fuck out of here.
Michael Penix. Could be better than Daniels.
Yeah, I probably would take.
know.
I probably would take Penix. Yeah, first round talent.
Yeah.
No, I'd say no to Michael Penix.
I mean, there's probably not any others.
I just like doing this. I've never really had this experience except for a couple weeks of RG3 back in 2012. But I just like knowing that I've got a good quarterback. You tell me Joe Burrow? Nope, taking Jayden.
What if the Commanders get a home playoff game and Daniels has to play on that shitty turf in January?
Yeah, so I was thinking about that. I love grass fields. I think players like grass fields for safety. I think a normal grass field is preferable to any of the field turf stuff. But we don't have a normal grass field. We've got a field that has taken lives. We have a killer swamp, and we've tried to fix it numerous times. I saw before the last game against the Giants, we had just like a bunch of inexplicable brown patches on the field because the sprinkler system didn't work correctly. So it looked like we had just had a Kenny Chesney concert like the morning of the game. We don't have a normal grass field, and now I'm thinking is there a way where we could just get field turf put in, because that whatever we've tried to do to fix this field has not worked. In the last decade and a half, we've tried to fix it, hasn't worked. So I don't know. That's going to be, I will be very nervous if we have to play a home game on that shitty field. But yeah,
could happen.
Name any quarterback. I just like thinking about it. Brock Purdy, get the fuck out of here. No, I don't want Brock Purdy. I got Jayden.
What if I promised you the rights to Nico?
Nope, because I know Jayden's good. I know he's good.
What about Nico and Arch?
Nico and Arch? If you got two quarterbacks, you have one?
You find out which one's better.
I would take Arch Manning and the rights to all future Mannings.
Okay.
That's my trade value right there. Arch and every quarterback that's named Manning.
But that could be 30 years down the road.
That means I've planned myself out 50 years of greatness.
That's the IRA of quarterbacks.
Yeah, it is. I would yes. Give me the rights to all the Mannings, and yeah, you can have Jayden. But besides that, and besides Patrick Mahomes, I don't think, and Josh, I don't think there's another quarterback out there. He's so good.
He looked really good.
He's so good. Also, the Bengals defense isn't very good, but our defense sucks too, and they look better. That's what I was encouraged about. Our defense, yeah, we didn't force any punts, which is probably a red flag. You generally want your defense to force at least one punt during the game or create one turnover. But we didn't look as bad as we have in the other games. So, also, Jamar Chase is still a problem. All right, so that concludes the PFT bragging portion of this podcast.
Yeah.
I'm just happy. It feels good to be happy. What else we got going on out there?
Diddy's in jail with SBF.
That's right.
Oh yeah, I didn't know if that was like a joke or that's.
No, I think it's real. They're at the same jail for sure.
Are they actually sharing a cell?
That's what I read.
That's what it said.
I read same common
Or
area.
unit.
Okay.
So they're in the same unit or section or whatever, but like the big common area where people hang out and play cards and stuff.
Do they have their own unit for kind of high profile criminals?
I would imagine so, because it's in Brooklyn. So that's, I guess, everybody that gets arrested in New York goes there.
They have SBF had freak offs too, right?
I have no idea.
I think they had a bunch of orgies and stuff at his weird island. Remember he had that one coworker that was like a sexual freak?
Yes. Yeah. That was like his girlfriend.
Yeah.
I think though. And then like, didn't she like rat on him during the trial?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. She wasn't really a looker, but she was freaky. So
she was freaky. Apparently it was like a big sex cult where everybody was like polygamous or polyamorous or whatever.
They were just down there coding, I guess, taking a bunch of Adderall and getting freaky.
Yeah. And then Diddy was the 1,000 bottles of lube. We talked about that. It's a lot of lube. And then there's been a lot of like fake shit that's come out about the Diddy stuff too, because I will believe anything that I see about it at this point. And then I have to like read the story and then actually click a couple links and find out if it's true. Most of it's not true, but we're being promised like a list.
Yeah. I mean, Nick and KB brought up a good point. Like, it's not illegal to have 1,000 bottles of baby oil.
It should be.
It should be.
But so did they just confiscate just to like turn that into a headline and make him look like even more of a creep?
I mean, I guess it is evidence.
Yeah, it's evidence.
It's not.
It's
not inherently evidence of a crime, but when you're building a case, like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Meek Mill is very upset on Twitter. He has been this whole week because I guess he was mentioned in like an article about Diddy's parties like way back, and like someone spread a rumor that Diddy like banged Meek Mill or something, and he's just, this has been going on for months, just like, why does everybody think I'm gay? Like,
yeah,
I've done so much for the criminal justice system, and now people only like talk about me getting banged by Diddy. Like, he's going through it. It's tough.
He's on the record though of loving pussy.
Yeah, no, that's what prompted that fucking. What was the quote of that text? It was great.
I read
it. I'm the type of guy that. Like,
I read it yesterday on PMT, but I'll look it up here. It's basically saying, "There's nothing like pussy. I love pussy." Here it is. Here's one of the quotes. It's from March 2nd, 2024. He said, "When I got a girl around me, I'm fucking her twice a day. Lol. Ask some of your favorites. Pussy don't control me. But it's like a high. One love to the gay people, but that juicy pussy do it for me. I done ran red lights to get that feeling. Y'all weird on here like devils."
Damn straight.
One love to the gay people.
Yeah, he's got nothing against the gays, but it's got to be tough. He's been wrapped up in this. And then he was like, I want to hire an investigation team, $100K cash, to find out every specific detail involving Meek Mill's name connected to the Diddy case. I also want them to look at who is powering the media involving Meek, anything to do with Diddy. Something not right.
So he's offering $100,000 for any evidence, any videotapes of Meek Mill getting pounded by Diddy. Meek Mill will pay you $100,000 to have those and to watch those.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just so we got that straight.
Some of the videos that have been coming out after all this are insane.
Yeah, it was all on record. Like Diddy was openly saying real weird shit on tape.
Did you see the one? It's at one of his parties at his house, and he's like, "All right, you kids, you got one more hour, and then you got to get out, and we're gonna do stuff that you're gonna want to do when you're grown." And it's like, dude, like, so everyone just knew. And then, did you see the Cat Williams joke?
No.
He was like, when you get famous and you start going to all these parties and stuff, there's the party, and then you walk around to some rooms and you accidentally walk in the wrong room, and then he just kind of stands there and stares. Like, everyone knew about this for 20 years.
Yeah, Diddy, bad guy.
It's crazy.
And he tried to kill Kid Cudi, right? He blew up Kid Cudi's car.
Yep, blew up Kid Cudi's car. Denzel Washington had a quote. He's like, going to parties is all good, but you just got to leave before the devil arrives.
Yeah, that's a good point. So nothing good happens after 2
You can't stay too late.
And you know who said ain't no party like a Diddy party?
Who?
LeBron.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, LeBron.
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah.
Kevin Hart was at a lot of them. I lost a lot of respect for Diddy. This was like 2 years ago when for Halloween, he dressed up as Batman and had his son dress up as Alfred the butler. And so he was in this decked out Batman thing. And then his like son's just like dressed like a butler holding a tray. It's like, if you got a kid, you got to let him go as Batman. You go as the butler.
Yeah, exactly.
What the fuck?
Your kid is your butler. You got that whole thing incredibly, like Diddy's having his son change his diapers.
Yeah.
That's weird.
It's every kid's dream to be Batman. Just like let him have that one day where he can be Batman. You can be his butler.
I bet there's a shitload of tape from, was it Making the Band?
Oh, yeah.
Is that Diddy's thing?
I think that would be the most likely people who Diddy took sexual advantage of.
Yeah. Dylon?
Dylon.
Yeah.
And then like now people are coming out saying that Kim Porter, Diddy's late wife, like wrote a memoir, but then the kids came out and they're like, she never wrote a book. I don't know what you're talking about, but like I think it's now one of the best selling books on Amazon. But like the kids and there are people like, she never wrote a book. So whoever is selling this book isn't like, it was not written by her mom.
So what was it, saying negative things about Diddy or positive things about Diddy?
I would have to assume negative. What does it say? I was like, I was confused by this. Sean, untrue.
The funniest is people that are just like openly speculating about whose videos are going to be on here. I saw like a bunch of people online being like, you guys will be blown away by the Michelle Obama video that's on here.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was saying bad things about Diddy, but then like all of her kids came out and they're like, this book isn't even written by her. Justin Bieber has been mentioned a lot.
Yeah.
Because he was really young at the time, and they've talked that Diddy was taking advantage of an 18-year-old pop star, which people are just like assuming is him. And there are a lot of creepy vids. There's one video with Diddy with Bieber, and he was like, "You don't call me anymore. Like, why don't you ever want to hang out?" And then Bieber gets like really nervous and starts like to stutter, and he was like, "Well, it's just like my manager had your number, but like I didn't have your number, so I didn't know how to reach out."
Yeah, there's some creepy stuff of Diddy like giving him a car and saying real weird stuff. Also, I saw a clip of, it's like a supercut of a bunch of Justin Bieber interviews from when he was like 14, 15 years old. Everybody was being real weird about Justin Bieber. Everyone was like talking to him about his sex life and stuff. And at one point, Bieber was like, "It's a really strange question to ask a 15-year-old, man. Like,
Yeah.
why are you talking about this?" He seemed like he was being very level-headed about it.
Yeah.
There's the Bieber stuff that's been coming out. There's a lot of just circumstantial evidence, like in real time as it was happening in the early 2010s, late 2000s, of people openly being like, "Yeah, Diddy, weird guy. I'm kind of afraid of him." So he's probably going to be in prison for the rest of his life, huh?
Surely.
We'll see what happens. I mean, even before, like, it's now come out that he was very likely the one who put the hit on Tupac. And
Yeah.
so it's like, even just for that, you should be in jail.
And Biggie.
And then, yeah, Biggie, I mean, yeah, I guess so. Like, people warned Biggie that, like, hey, if you go to this party tonight, there's people that want to shoot you. And Diddy was like, "Nah, don't worry about it. We're going to this party."
Yeah.
And then I know Biggie wanted to leave the label right before he was shot.
Mm-hmm. A controlling dude like Diddy
Yeah, I was like, I'm not going to let that happen.
would not take, he wouldn't take that lightly. And also, we've talked about this on the show, but the way that Diddy acted right after Biggie was killed, like over the top, made his whole life about like how great Biggie Smalls was, made songs, videos, movies about him. Like that is some psychopath shit that you would do if you were the one that put the hit out.
Yeah.
And Jim Mora knew
Yeah, that's right.
because he coached Diddy's son
Yeah.
at UCLA, and then he told Najee Harris who killed Tupac.
Yeah.
Well, I should say we don't know that he said it was Diddy. We just know that he coached
Yeah.
Diddy's son.
He wasn't the one who pulled the trigger, but he's the one who put out the bounty.
Right. And then supposedly told Najee Harris who killed Tupac when he was recruiting him.
Yeah, so Diddy was in a car that was like behind Biggie, right? When Biggie was shot?
I think so.
I think they were like traveling together. I don't think he was in the car, but I think he was nearby. Not saying that Diddy actually pulled the trigger. I don't think that Diddy would pull the trigger. I think that he would pay somebody to do it for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is I don't know what the trial is going to be like in terms of Diddy naming names, or how much like video evidence is going to get put out there. Who else is going to be implicated? Some weird, sick shit that Diddy was into.
Imagine being in jail and then just one day Diddy shows up.
Yeah.
That's got to be crazy.
Yeah, probably pretty, like, it's morale boosting for the rest of the cell, right? Like, oh shit, Diddy's in here.
You would think, but then, like, he's been accused of some weird shit, so, like, and you're in jail, so.
But if you're in jail and that's, like, your entire life, you're going to be there for the next, like, 30 years, it'd probably be at least a little bit interesting to have Diddy in the mix, right?
Yeah, something to break up the monotony.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe you could become friends with Diddy. Like, tell your friends, like, hey, guess who my boy is now? It's Diddy. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I think they got him on suicide watch, right?
Yeah, but I think that's just what they have to do with really high-profile people. Like, his lawyer came out and was like, he's not actually suicidal at all. They just, like, had to say that.
Yeah, so I think the trait of a narcissist would be that they would never actually kill themselves, right? If we're going by the book, they would make people think that they were going to, maybe.
Yeah.
But they never would actually do it because they are in love with themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think we're going to have an Epstein-esque situation on our hands, but who knows? It depends who he has dirt on. Because the one thing they found was that, like, when they raided his house, there were cameras in, like, all the rooms. And so the idea is that he would, like, film these freak-offs and then just use it to have leverage on all the most powerful people in the entertainment business.
Yeah, so apparently, according to the Daily Mail, which, by the way, we've found out recently that the Daily Mail, not the brightest people that work there, but they reported that the Diddy's bodyguard said that there are tapes of politicians at freak-offs. What is a freak-off?
So the freak-offs would be like the sex parties he would throw. But I think sometimes he would just throw a normal party and then they would, like, turn into freak-offs, maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, sex party, I get that. But when does a sex party become a freak-off? Because freak-off to me implies maybe it's a competition.
I think when Diddy walked in and said, y'all are going to do a freak-off, that's when it became a freak-off.
It's just, freak-off is just everybody fuck?
No, I think it was like he would have two dudes, like wrestle and shit.
Yeah.
And then, like, eventually start doing other stuff.
I gotta know.
I have no idea.
I gotta know what a freak-off is.
And also, if you throw a freak-off and everyone is there on their own volition, all the sex is consensual, like, it's not illegal to have an orgy, right?
No, it's not illegal to have a freak-off.
But I think they were like, he was sex trafficking because he was flying in all these girls from all over the country.
That's when it becomes a problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's like, what if you just happen to get an invite to a Diddy party and you're like, yeah, I'll go, and you cross state lines to go there and you end up having a lot of sex? Were you trafficked? Or if he's like, I'm going to pay you to come to my party here and just have sex with, like, a lot of the guests.
Then that would be sex trafficking.
Okay.
If you're getting paid money to go there.
Yeah.
And it's implied or it's written that you're going to have sex in exchange for the money. That's probably illegal. But what if you're just a horny person? What if you're a horny dude in Southern California? You get invited to a freak off and there's just a bunch of holes in that room that you can fill. Is that illegal?
I don't think so. But what if one of the holes you fill is like a girl that Diddy paid to come there and have sex with his guests? So you just, like, unknowingly had sex with, like, a woman who's been sex trafficked.
With a prostitute or somebody who's been, sex trafficked. I don't know. It seems like a gray area. If they're underage, then that's definitely a crime.
Yeah.
That part would be, and I think that there have been a lot of reports of underage people being at those parties. So sex trafficking, sexual assault, racketeering, that's what Diddy was charged with, amongst others. Social media videos describe Diddy's alleged freak-offs as multi-day sex orgies. That's a little redundant, isn't it? Sex orgy?
Oh, yeah, sex orgy is.
I suppose so.
I guess you could have, like, a drug orgy.
I feel like orgy inherently.
Yeah, there's got to be some sex.
Yeah, involving heavy drug use.
Oh, yeah. Also, the fact if he was like drugging anyone there without them knowing, that very illegal.
That's very illegal. It says gallons of alcohol. That to me, what do you mean gallons of alcohol? That's not that much alcohol. Like a keg party is gallons of alcohol.
Yes.
If you have 2 bottles, two handles of rum, that's gallons of alcohol, right?
Yeah.
Large quantities of baby oil and lubricants. A video posted to social media platform X by user Awkward Mama News. That sounds like a legit news source right there. Broke down how Diddy's white parties devolved into freak-offs. These events would start after his famous white parties, which attracted celebrities like Leonardo DiCaprio, Paris Hilton, and Mariah Carey, according to a post by Michael Kaplan of the New York Post. When the A-listers left, a more secretive, hedonistic party would begin in back rooms featuring Diddy and a select group of friends. In the video, Michael Kaplan explains how the night wore on. Kaplan recounts a drug dealer's testimony from one of those parties where he allegedly witnessed male-on-male sexual activities among rappers, which shocked him. While Diddy wasn't directly involved in those acts, the dealer said the scene made him decline Diddy's offer to stay and party. Yeah, I think freak off is, it seems to me like it's just a made-up term.
No, because that's like what he would call the parties. So, yeah, it was made up by him.
Oh, it's Diddy. So a freak off is a Diddy sex orgy.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
Like, I don't know about you guys. When I heard freak off, I feel like there's a winner and a loser to a freak off. It's like if you have a dance off with somebody.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I
There's a
think
winner,
there
there's a
were
loser.
several losers.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
Yeah.
And Diddy,
It's like,
I don't know that anyone really won.
yeah.
I think if you're trying to fill as many holes while trying to avoid having your holes filled as many times,
Yeah.
and whoever has the best holes filled to your own holes stuffed ratio wins.
Yeah, that's like a KD ratio.
Yeah.
It's like I filled 4 and only got mine filled once.
Yeah.
I won the freak off.
Yes.
That's Ted Williams numbers.
Yep. But if you had your holes filled like 20 times and only filled a hole once, like that,
Yeah.
you might have lost the freak off.
You go home, you're like, "Fuck, I got shut out at the freak off tonight. Bad day at the plate for me."
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking. I guess I'm looking forward to the trial. This seems like something that's going to be at least salacious.
I mean, when's that trial going to be? 2028?
I'm sure that there's going to be lawyers that delay it.
Oh, yeah. I just found out the other day the Brian Koberger trial, the Idaho guy, isn't till next summer.
Why is that?
He gave up his right to a speedy trial.
Okay.
Well, everyone does that. You don't want a trial quickly.
In Presumed Innocent, he did.
The girl who just murdered her mom did.
Who's that?
Did you not see that?
I saw the video of her killing her mom.
Yeah. There was a 15-year-old in Mississippi who just got convicted of killing her mom and attempting to murder her stepdad.
Okay. And like why is the murder on tape?
They
happened
had
in her
like
house.
ring cameras in the house.
Oh, okay.
She walks in the door with her hand behind her back, goes around the corner, goes into the bedroom. You hear her mom scream, bang, bang, and then she walks back out.
And then she calls her friend and tells her friend to come over, and she shows her friend the dead body.
Ugh.
And then the stepdad comes home. She shoots the stepdad in the shoulder, and then the dad calls 911.
There are too many videos like that are too easy to see online.
I did everything I could to not watch. I didn't watch it. No.
Wait, so did she have a trial like really quickly?
Yeah, I mean, this happened in March, and she already's convicted and in jail for the rest of her life. And she's
I would
15.
assume that, did she not try to take a deal?
Or did she because you can use the case, oh, my mom was very abusive to me, and then you can get off on manslaughter or something like that.
Yeah, so I think the thing that they tried to kind of use to her benefit was that she was on antidepressants.
I don't know if that's a strong enough case.
Yeah.
Probably not.
And if you know there are cameras in your house to the point that you have your hand behind your back when you walk in.
Well, and she moved one of the cameras in the bedroom.
I mean, how stupid.
So you couldn't see where she killed her?
Obviously, I guess if you're hell-bent on killing someone, there's something wrong in your brain to begin with. But if you're going to do it, don't do that.
I have a suggestion for Elon Musk. I know he's a listener of Macrodosing.
Yeah.
Elon, I guess you could describe me as a power user of your website, x.com. It's all happening on X. There should be a button I can click where I can opt out of murder videos. Because on the For You page, and I know that a lot of it is like based on what you've seen gets put into your algorithm, but amongst people I know, they're serving up a bunch of just straight up snuff videos. If you watch a video, the next thing that comes up, it'll be something that is sometimes gruesome, sometimes just stuff that you don't want to watch. And my problem is, and this is probably why I get more of them, I will watch the video and I don't want to watch the video. And then the murder happens and then I feel terrible and I'm like, that sucks. I didn't want to see that. And then I'll get out of there. And then the next time a video will pop up where it's like, watch this brutal encounter on tape. For some reason, you have to like keep it going for a second, and you hate it. I hate every second of it.
Can I cut you off?
Yeah.
Can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Can you go to x.com?
Yeah.
And then I want you to go to your settings.
Okay.
And then you just gotta uncheck the
And
murder
then I want
box.
you to go to privacy and safety.
Okay. Privacy. Let's see. Your account, security and account act, privacy and safety.
And then I want you to go to content UC.
Okay.
And then I want you to unclick that button that says display media that may contain sensitive content.
But I feel like
because it's a little too.
But I think that their filter is like everything is described as sensitive content, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you don't want to see it, then you won't see it.
Anything Jack Mac posts comes up as sensitive content.
Yeah, there's so much stuff out there that's not sensitive
like
content.
now, PFT won't even be able to see cleavage on Twitter.
Well,
I need to see cleavage.
That's the thin red line you toe.
And when I'm watching Jayden Daniels highlights, like that is porn. That might get flagged as porn.
Well, the button you want exists. You just got to decide if you want to push it.
Let's see. I can go to topics, suggested topics. It's got, see, when it says my suggested topics, it's all things that I do want to see updates about. Carson Wentz, nope. Getting that out of there. But yeah, it's all not interested. I don't know, just give me a no murders button.
How many murders are you seeing on Twitter?
I've probably seen, I don't know, like a handful this week.
Jeez.
That's insane.
It's like leaked cop footage.
Back in my day, you had to go to liveleak.com to see murders.
Yeah, you had to opt into it.
Yeah.
You had to opt in. You had to go to LiveLeak was a big one.
Yep.
Way back in the day, rotten.com was another one. We all had friends that were like really into this shit. I had one friend in particular that was like, you got to check out this website, rotten.com. And then he showed it to me. I was like, this sucks, man. I don't want to see that. So I'll put my hand up and I'll say, I do let those videos play when they pop up out of, I don't know if it's morbid curiosity or whatever it is. But I don't want to watch them. So stop putting them on your platform.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of people killing their parents, have you guys seen Monsters, the Eric and Lyle Menendez story?
I know about the story, but I have not seen the show.
I saw it on the Netflix homepage the other day, and I intend on watching it, but I haven't seen it yet.
It was good. I didn't really know about that story at all until watching that. But yeah, they're still in jail for life. They almost got off at first, though, because they were claiming they suffered years and years of sexual and physical abuse. But it's still not clear. I think there's a chance they were making all that up or making a lot of it up.
Yeah.
Because their first trial, they almost got off, but then it was a hung jury. So it was judged a mistrial. They did it again. And then when they did their second trial, I guess one of them in jail, he'd been talking to his girlfriend and she recorded all their calls.
Yeah.
And he was kind of like talking about like all the stories he was going to like make up about his dad to her. That it was then like recorded. So they're like, this does not look good for you.
Yeah. I remember when the trial happened, it was like, that's an interesting question. Like if their parents were actually abusing them
Yeah.
When does it become self-defense? But they might have just been psychos and making it up.
Do you know about the Mark Jackson card?
No.
So there was a Mark Jackson
yes.
basketball card in 1990 that went out. It was made by Topps or Fleer or whoever it was. And in the background are the Menendez brothers sitting courtside. And so they stopped making it. And now I think it's like a really valuable card.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they were sitting courtside like a month after the parents were killed because they started bawling out after they killed their parents because then like their whole fortune went to them.
Yeah.
And so like they weren't discreet about it. Like one of them bought a Porsche and they were sitting courtside and like I think he bought a Buffalo Wings chain or something like that. They were just blowing money.
Oh, honestly, if you gave like 16-year-old me a bunch of money, that's probably the two things I would buy.
Yeah,
I would get
exactly.
a Porsche and then a Buffalo Wing restaurant.
Yeah, maybe minority steak and wing nuts.
Yeah, probably. So I have just clicked that button, Big T.
Okay.
So it'll be an experiment. We'll see how it goes. So my apologies to Jack Mac if I can't watch any of his TikTok videos that pop up on here anymore.
This is completely random, but what percentage better is wing nuts than like a regular wing?
Like war? What's the war on it? Like wings over replacement?
So like
wings over replacement.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed them. And that's just because I like a crispy wing. When I was in Buffalo, I only went to 2 spots. And like the wing nuts had a good crisp. The other wings had zero crisp.
Yeah.
At all.
You get some soggy. Did you go to Anchor Bar?
I think it may have been Anchor Bar.
Anchor Bar, I have not been in love with the crisp there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was a flavorful sauce, but it was just zero crunch at all.
I would say that wing nuts is over the average wing. I would say it is 100 to 200% better.
Really?
Yeah, 100 to 200% better. Twice as good, if not 3 times as good.
How much better than the next best wing you've ever had?
Ooh, now I got to think of the next best wing I've ever had, which is really tough. I mean, Bird's Nest is really good here in Chicago.
How much better than Wogie's?
Oh, Wogie's is really good too. I would say it's about 50 to 75% better.
Wow. Okay.
Than Wogie's. 50 to 75% better than Bird's Nest. And I love Bird's Nest.
Wow. Okay.
It really blows my mind that they don't eat wings in Europe. Like wings aren't a thing. They obviously eat the whole chicken. You can get a rotisserie chicken, but like if you just want to order like a platter of wings in Europe, you got to go to a U.S. style bar kind of.
That's really strange.
Yeah. And I think the French like see it as kind of the worst part of the chicken. And so that they might actually like export a lot of wings to the U.S.
That's very strange. France needs to get on board with that. What do they do? What's your, if you live in France, what do you eat while you're watching sports?
Duck hearts and snails.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Escargot is really good though. They basically just cook it in a fuckload of butter and garlic.
Escargot, yeah, but it kind of just tastes like butter and garlic.
Yeah.
Like I think every other type of shelled fish is going to be better than snails.
Yeah, dude, they don't have mott sticks there.
They don't have mott sticks.
I don't think there's a lot of deep fryers in France, is there?
Yeah, because they love their croquettes, and those are deep fried, I think.
Okay, well, get on board, France. Give me some wings to eat while I'm watching sports.
Buffalo wings are not a thing. And I guess when they are sold and like eaten in Europe, they're marketed as a U.S. food. So like wings might be more American than apple pie.
What? Yeah. What? Maybe just open up a wing place in France.
That could be big. I mean, they do have some wing spots in France, but it's like you go to a Canadian bar, you go to this American sports bar.
Okay, so some foods that might be eaten during sports in France include a croque monsieur, Nutella crepes.
I think those are just foods that are eaten in France, but yeah.
Cream puffs.
Whack.
Cherry tomatoes, olives, nuts, and cold radishes. Deviled eggs. Okay, I'll give you deviled eggs. That's a pretty good one. Yeah, you got to eat wings. Wings, I feel like, would be a perfect food to eat while you're watching soccer.
I'm on UEFA's website, and they have a list of all the foods from all the different countries. For France, it says plenty of regional variations, but the galette saucisse, which is a sausage sandwich, and the Breton club is regarded as the quintessential terrace food and is a Stade Rennais specialty. The fried pork sausage inside a thin buckwheat pancake can be eaten cold or warm, but ideally with your hands. So I guess that's their big thing. Sausage sandwich.
I guess that's good. We have sausage sandwiches here too. We eat those during sports.
In England,
Baseball
you know what
games.
the big thing is at soccer stadiums?
Fish and chips.
No.
Meat pies?
It's like, pies.
Okay, I'm on board with that. Meat pies are awesome. Great to eat while you're watching sports.
I don't know. When we were at Hong Kong Sevens, it was like 88 degrees out.
That's
and then
true.
You're just like hungover eating a meat pie in the scorching sun.
That's true. If it's but it'd be great for like cold weather.
Oh yeah,
Like
it's a great hearty cold weather
a
food.
football game in November or December or January. A meat pie would be great because they serve it to you in like that little paper wrapping, so you just stand there and you can hold it in one hand and eat it. Not a lot of mess.
You know what the other thing about England is when you're at a stadium?
No beer.
Well, you can't drink it at your seat.
Yeah.
In view of the field, you can't drink it.
Yeah, you have
So,
to drink it in the concourse.
Yeah, which is crazy,
Mm-hmm.
That's
So-
a lot better than no beers at all, though.
I guess. But you've got to, at halftime, run up there, get one, chug it real quick, and then go back.
They pulled a fast one on Donnie and me at the World Cup last time. They said that there was going to be beer, and then like a week before the World Cup, they said psych. They said no
Psych.
beer. So they tried to deliver a bunch of Budweiser, I think, to the stadiums.
Yeah,
And then the government of Qatar was like, "Yeah, we're actually not going to do beer."
yeah, like at the last moment.
Didn't they have
But then-
Bud Zero?
Yes.
Yeah, they had Bud Zeros. We were drinking those to like ward off the hangover, trying to trick our brain that it was real booze.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then we also got pumped up because we were invited into a hospitality suite, and those were the one place where you could drink booze at the games. So we go, but then we show up and we're actually in the Emir of Qatar's suite. And that's the one hospitality suite that does not allow booze because he has to make an example being like, I can't like ban booze. And then people like are drinking booze in my suite.
That seems kind of like the thing the Emir of Qatar would actually love to do.
That would be like a Chris Christie moment.
Yeah.
No one can use the beach except for me
Yeah.
Yeah.
and my family. No, there was, I think it would have been a bad look for the Emir to have booze in his suite.
Yeah.
But Donnie, do you remember how crazy the security was getting into that suite?
Yeah, it was, but I was still able to bring in my Zins and my camera.
Yeah, but I mean like the levels of checkpoints you had to go through
Yeah.
where people would say, "Okay, you can pass me." There were probably like 6 or 7 people that like stopped us and then like, "Okay, proceed." And I was in the bathroom at one point and this I think he was a member of the Saudi royal family because he had the traditional Saudi Arabian keffiyeh on.
Yeah.
And he was rolling with like a group of 4 or 5 bodyguards, massive bodyguards next to him. Came into the bathroom while I was in there and went up to the urinal. And I'll say this: the taupe, is that what they call it? I forget.
Oh yeah.
The robe that you wear,
Yeah.
very convenient when it comes to peeing in public.
Yeah, it was actually very comfortable. I always like had seen photos and I'm like, how are they wearing that? It's so hot out there. But it's like it's a very cooling garb.
Yeah, it's nice. And also just
A
the
thobe.
the thobe, that's what it
Thobe,
was. Yeah.
yep.
Just being able to pull it up and take a piss was very enjoyable. We talked about bidets on the last episode of Macrodosing, and Chaps was giving me a run through of how you should use a bidet, how life-changing they are. I don't want to air anybody out. There is an employee of Barstool Sports that listened to the episode, sent me a text message, and I think I should probably read their words out loud because I don't want to.
How about you read their words out and then I try to guess which employee it is?
Yeah, that works. Big T, you can see.
I want to guess also,
Okay.
but then I want to be shown, obviously.
Okay, let's see. You want a life-altering experience? Turn the bidet on while you shit. Trust me. And I said, question mark, question mark, question mark. How does that work? Bro, it's unreal. Takes away all the push. It naturally just flows out. It's life-altering.
It's like an enema.
Only way I shit now is in my basement by turning it on while I go. It's the best.
That's got to be Jersey Jerry.
Not Jersey Jerry.
That was my only guess.
I think I saw the initials, so I'm not gonna.
Okay, but how does that work? Like you're pushing something out, and then you're getting your butt sprayed. Doesn't it make the poop go everywhere? Doesn't it?
Yeah, I feel like that would create quite a mess.
It pushes back in, right? Like just
I don't know that it would
nature.
push it back in, but it would spray it everywhere.
Yeah.
I think like something about the water being shot in the hole. It's almost like if it's like the water gets like shot up into his prostate, it relaxes him and then the poop flows out. But the water's not getting that high up. The water's not like hitting his prostate.
I have to imagine that the water is getting rejected by the poop that's coming out, right?
Yeah. Or then it just, it creates,
or maybe
there's it depends if it's like a wet shit or a dry shit, but then it's kind of like water. Unless the poop goes out, like unless he's getting like it shot into the back of his butt, which relaxes it, and then the poop flows out in front of the water. I don't know how that works.
My theory is that he turns it on before he starts pooping, and as he's trying to poop, the water hits his butt and relaxes his butt, like tickles. It like tickles his butt.
Yeah,
and it's like petting your dog when they're stressed out. It's like, oh, okay, I'll lay down. I feel better now.
Yeah, but anytime I've been blasted in the butt by a bidet, it like my asshole kind of clenches up.
Yeah, it shocks you a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm not going to say who sent that to
Che?
me. It was not Che. It does sound like a Che thing, though, right?
Yeah.
That does sound.
Yeah.
They have a basement, which
especially because he
narrows
was
people
eating
down.
corn, like for a while, like just corn. I feel like that poop would just flow out naturally.
Yeah.
White Sox Dave.
You would think that it would explode like a piñata if it's just corn.
That's a good guess.
That's a very good guess. Not White Sox Dave.
Is it New
he doesn't
York
have a
or
basement.
Chicago?
I don't want to say
Can you look at your texts and tell me?
and tell you. No, that's not who it is.
Oh, that's what I thought. Is it that guy's initials?
No.
Oh, then I have bad eyesight.
Yeah. So Big T's guess was Nate. It's not.
Well, that
not
wasn't
Nate.
that wasn't my guess. That's just whose initials I thought I saw on your phone.
Okay. You know this person.
Feidelberg?
No, not
You also have
Feidelberg.
to think about
That's
who
a good guess, though.
has a basement. Right?
Right, so
Wait,
it has to be
KFC?
Chicago.
Not KFC.
I mean, KFC has a basement. It's like
Not Big Cat.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not
Big Cat probably has a basement.
going to.
Okay.
I'm not going to say who it was.
Okay.
But I'll let everybody guess who that was.
Can you tell
Okay.
us off air?
I will tell you off the air.
Okay.
Who's friends with PFT who would have a basement?
Who listens to
I
Macrodosing?
got a lot of friends.
And it's not Chaps because he would just say.
Oh yeah, he was on the episode.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it the beef?
It's not the beef.
He's not going to tell us though.
He'll tell us off air.
I'll tell you
Does-
guys off air.
Does Chaps equate his diarrhea with being shot?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's a body response like PTSD.
Okay.
Because he says that he's had diarrhea since Easter of whatever year that was,
Okay.
and that's when he got shot.
Yeah.
And that is like a symptom if you have like a traumatic experience like that.
When I got E. coli in the Philippines, like even after I felt better, I was like on the verge of death for maybe 4 days. But then I started feeling better, but I didn't have a solid shit for the next 3 months, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. My body just had lasting trauma from it.
Do you get that experience like when you eat something right around the time that you have a bad sickness and that food tastes different for you for the rest of your life?
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Like,
I've been turned off to honey mustard pretzels.
because you ate it right before getting sick?
I got the flu when I was in 5th grade, right after I had some honey mustard pretzels, and then it changed my brain chemistry. But there is a notable exception. Dots.
I was gonna say.
Dots
Yep.
pretzels, they can do no wrong.
The cinnamon sugar Dots pretzels are incredible.
So somebody asked me one time to rank the Dots pretzels. I had a very hard time doing it. And I don't know that I can actually do it because they're all so good.
Cinnamon number 1.
And
Regular
yeah.
number 2. Although the regular ones, was it you I was discussing this with the other day?
Maybe?
After 8, 9, 10, the flavor starts to get weird for me of the original. Still very
Yeah.
good.
I
But like
still
the
love them.
cinnamon sugar, I could eat 1,000 in a row.
Yeah, the cinnamon sugar, it is like crack. The honey mustard are delicious. Their new flavor, garlic parmesan,
I have not tried that.
outstanding. I had it on Snacking Off which is a great show.
I'm gonna order those right now.
Yeah, you should try it. You're gonna love them. They did it again. That's the only thing I can say is like I don't know what the process is like for research and development, but they don't half-ass it.
I'm ordering a 16-ounce bag right now.
Let's go. How fast does that get here?
I can pick it up within 2 hours at a Target. Dots Pretzels, if anyone's listening, we would love for you to sponsor this show.
Yeah.
In my top 5, if you told me name 5 brands right now that you would like to sponsor Macro, in my top 5 for sure.
What else you got?
Buc-ee's.
Okay.
Waffle House.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are others. That's top 3 probably.
Wingnuts.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We can just say that they're a sponsor. They'll be fine with that.
You've given them more free pub than they could have ever dreamed of.
I'm kind of a sponsor of Wingnuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got sent a video of one of my friends in Wingnuts in Buffalo the other day, and goddamn, I wake up thinking about those chicken wings all the time. They're so good. Back on the diet though. I had a moment of weakness in Cincinnati where I was drinking all the beers, but now I'm back to that good clean living. I think it's working too. We'll see. All right. Do you guys want to get into anything else, or you want to talk about Thomas Jefferson?
I don't want to go into too much detail about this, but it is very relevant to macrodosing. I went down to Mexico last week, and when we did our magic mushroom episode, we talked about like how the Western world discovered shrooms, and it was this small village in Mexico that a VP of JP Morgan, who just happened to be like a mushroom enthusiast in his spare time, heard about like a group of villagers that used mushrooms in their religious rituals. So he went down, convinced them to let him participate in the rituals. And then he went back to the US, wrote an article in Life magazine, and then like mushroom mania hit the US. So I got to go to that same town and do a mushroom ceremony with the great grandson of the lady that gave Gordon Wasson the shrooms originally.
That's very cool.
Yes. I will say shrooms I've done in the US have been way stronger. I was not like tripping balls, but doing the whole ceremony with a shaman was incredible. I did try to film the whole thing, and the footage is very dark. I don't know how much you can see, but you can definitely like hear all the chants that are going on. I think he's like chanting in the Mazatec language.
Yeah.
Yeah. So be on the lookout for that content coming down the pipeline.
That's kind of like a trend for what Americans do with things. Like we go to South America and they're like, we like to chew on the leaves of this cocoa plant because it provides us with extra stimulation.
Yeah.
Like let's chemically alter it and distill it into a powder and then make it so strong it can kill us.
Exactly. Like if you go to Jamaica and smoke weed, like a lot of that weed is not very strong.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they're always just like chilled out, smoking all day. And then you come to the U.S. and you smoke the weed they have these days, and you're like, you take one hit and you're like, I am too high to function.
Yeah, it knocks you out.
Yeah.
I saw a video of people on the train in New York City. This guy was like, I turned it into a big smoke out, and he just started like lighting a joint, and then I think it was a blunt actually. Then they passed it around to the entire train, and like everybody was taking a drag of it. I thought to myself, like, if that's good weed and I was on that train, I would take a hit, absolutely, and then within about 45 seconds, I would start freaking out about being on that train.
Yeah. Being on the New York subway high is not ideal.
Yeah. But yeah, we do that with everything. We're like, this is a nice little traditional drug you have.
Mm-hmm.
Be a shame if we turned it into a way to ruin somebody's life.
Yeah. I also met a guy down there who said the cure to all stomach issues, like say if you have alcohol related stomach issues or something, he said to wake up in the morning and take a shot of mezcal first thing before you brush your teeth, before you drink any water, and just do 1 shot a day for a week. First thing when you wake up, and it will cure all of your stomach issues. He swore by it.
I can't imagine that's true.
Me neither. Actually, I don't know. Like if you have an ulcer from drinking too much alcohol, I can't see the solution to be take a shot every day for a week.
But maybe if you don't drink any other alcohol at all.
Yeah, just that 1 shot somehow. He says like right when you wake up, take a shot, even if you have stomach issues not related to alcohol. He swears by it.
Yeah.
So we'll have to try a mezcal cleanse at some point.
I like that. I'm doing a mezcal fast. I'm only drinking alcohol. That's it.
Water and mezcal for a week. No, you couldn't survive off that. But if you did water, mezcal, and then maybe vitamins.
Yeah, you could survive for a long time on that, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I have a friend that did a cleanse. It was every day he would just drink this. It was like a combination of lemon juice, cayenne pepper, maybe a little bit of maple syrup.
Yeah.
And then that was the only thing his body was consuming. He was trying to go a full week. I think on day 3, he shat his pants and was like, this is not worth it.
Yeah, that definitely makes you just have constant diarrhea.
Yeah.
I know some people that have done that too, the lemon juice cleanse. And I guess it does clean you out in terms of just making you shit everything you have in your body out. Mm-hmm. But I can't imagine it's super good for you. How long do you think you could go just on not eating or drinking anything at all, but just getting IVs? Like if you got a hydration IV and a vitamin IV every day.
Because I know when people are vegetables, they can't keep them alive just off the IV for that long. Like they also have to do a feeding tube.
Yeah.
So I don't know how long that would work. I can say the only time I've done like one of those hangover IVs, it was I went to a country festival here. It was the end of the fest. I've been drinking a fair amount. I got the IV. After the IV, I did have 4 more beers, which I don't think you're supposed to do. But I woke up the next morning with one of the worst hangovers I've had in my life. Yeah. I don't know if that's just because I drank after the IV, which you're not supposed to do. But it was a brutal hangover.
Was your IV intended to prevent a hangover or to cure a hangover?
It was intended to prevent a hangover.
Oh, okay. I've heard of people doing it when they're currently hungover. Like they wake up in the morning in Vegas or whatever, and they're like, let's get the IV person out here.
Yeah, that looks awesome.
It does look awesome. I think that there's probably a world where celebrities could go on like the new diet, which is they just put you into a medically induced coma.
Yep.
I mean, feed you with IVs for a month, and then you wake up and you're 40 pounds skinnier.
Medically, yeah. Would you be willing to go into a 40-day coma to lose 60 pounds?
I think a lot of people would do it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I mean, I want to go into medically induced coma every year after the Super Bowl. Just wake me up when March Madness starts. I don't need the second half of February, first half of March.
February is just especially now, if you live somewhere that has bad winter weather, Super Bowl happens, and then you've got I enjoy college basketball, but that whole month you're just, I guess, Valentine's Day if you're really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But it's 20 degrees, it rains all the time, there's nothing going on.
Yeah, it's the worst. I want to wake up for conference championship week in basketball.
Yeah. Is February 12 out of 12 in months?
You mean the worst month?
Yeah.
I don't think it can be because it's got the Super Bowl.
But the Super Bowl is one day.
Yeah, but it's more than that, Big T. It's like the whole week leading up.
February's the worst month, I think.
I think it's 12 for me.
I'm trying to think. March has March Madness. April has
good weather, Masters.
Better weather, the Masters, also
baseball,
finals,
playoffs of basketball and hockey.
Yeah, I mean, I do love the Super Bowl. If February didn't have the Super Bowl, it would be the worst month. I would say let's get rid of February.
I think you're severely overestimating the Super Bowl.
I've never done that.
It's one day.
Yes, but you don't get it.
So then,
I mean, for your job, you're out wherever the Super Bowl is for a whole week, which looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah. Also, Big T's a Falcons fan. I can understand how he would not think that the Super Bowl was anything important. As a Commanders fan and a Jayden Daniels fan, that's the biggest day of the year for me. Okay.
Yeah.
That's when it's all on the line.
So what's your worst month?
No, I think you're right. I think objectively speaking, February is the worst month, but the Super Bowl, I want to say worst month except for the Super Bowl.
What are your top 3?
June is the best month.
Yeah, June's good.
June 15th to July 15th.
Okay, I was going to have July potentially at my one. This is the first I'm hearing of June, but
When did you come up with June?
It was actually over COVID when me and my friends got a place on the Cape, and I think it was in the middle of June, and it all just dawned on me that all the best parts of summer usually happen in June. We got my birthday, June 16th. You got
That's
July
my
4th.
birthday too.
Let's
Really?
go.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit. Yeah, it's just a great month. It's still very early on in the summer, so you don't already have that feeling like, oh, shit, the summer's coming to an end. Like, I think it was Jet Ski who was like, after July 4th, the summer's basically over. That's not true at all.
Yeah, that's not true. Definitely not.
But yeah, it's like, it's right when you really appreciate the summer. Like sometimes in August, you've already gotten used to the nice weather, so you don't fully appreciate it, or you're just like, oh, it's pretty damn hot. This is getting annoying. What else happens?
It officially becomes summer on June 21st, right?
Yeah. Yep. Officially becomes summer.
Y'all just did the birthday paradox, by the way. Do you know about that?
No.
In a room of 23 people, there's a 50-50 chance 2 people have the same birthday.
Wow.
And in a room of 75 people, it's 99%.
I mean, do you ever believe like part of my take was created through divine intervention? The fact that you and Big Cat, because you guys were not only born on the same day, you were born on the same year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane.
Well, not the same day. I guess you could say the same day in a 24-hour sense.
Oh,
But he was
okay.
January 30th. I'm January 31st.
Oh, okay. I thought it fell on the same day. as
So
well.
he was like, I think 12 hours before I was.
Okay.
But yeah, it's really strange. It's very, very strange. There's a lot of stuff about our lives that is very similar in that way. So yeah, I'm going to go with divine intervention at that point.
Yeah,
It was
all right.
either that or the world did actually end in early 2016. And then that's just been a simulation.
Okay.
So one of the two of those, I think, is probably fair to say. Big T, have we talked about the birthday paradox? Because how does that math
don't
work
know.
out?
I have no idea. I remember hearing about it in college, and then that just made me think of it.
So if there's 23 people in a room,
There's a 50-50 chance of at least 2 people having the same birthday. And in 75 people, there's a 99.9% chance.
I guess every person has a 1 in 365% chance.
It's only a quote paradox because our brains can't handle the compounding power of exponents. We expect probabilities to be linear and only consider the scenarios we're involved in. Then there's a video. It's talking about exponents.
Holy shit.
There's a whole math thing behind it, but yeah, it's true.
I'm trying to get on Wikipedia right now, and I actually can't unless I donate or I put in my email, so they can like email me about donating later.
That's how they get you.
Yeah.
They let me on just now.
You're probably a big time donor though.
I think they're like, you've been using this website like too much for it to still be free.
I wouldn't donate. I wouldn't donate to Wikipedia. If you said you'd give me $100 if I had to give 20 of it to Wikipedia, I wouldn't do it.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's about time I donate to Wikipedia. I think I'm going to do it. When they send me an email in a week, I'm going to do it.
Really?
It's probably
How much are we
it's
talking?
going to be $10.
Okay.
Just 2% of our readers donate. It says so. If Wikipedia,
That's a shit ton of people.
that's a lot of people. Yeah.
That means they're doing just fine.
Yeah. This isn't NPR. Although I bet NPR they have a higher percentage of people that donate than Wikipedia, right?
Yeah, because if you're listening to NPR, you're a hardcore.
You're an NPR person. It's part of your
Yeah,
personality.
Correct.
Yeah.
By the way, top 3 months: July, December, November.
Big Christmas guy.
November.
Yeah,
November's kind of rough because that's right when it starts to get cold. Like,
but that's good though. You get the fall at the beginning, and then it starts to get a little crisper toward the end.
that's
Thanksgiving,
October though.
football.
I love October. October is beautiful in most parts of the world.
October would be my 4 or 5. After those, it would just alternate between like October, June, September, May. Just go back and forth between football and summer.
Mm-hmm.
June is nice. June is a very good month. Also, this week was the start of fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in fall right now. Some may say soup season. I eat soup all year round, but I did have soup last night because it was rainy, and yeah, we're definitely in soup season.
What's a soup for the fall, but it's still warm outside?
Okay, that's a good question. Soup for the fall, still warm outside.
A week 3 soup.
I'll give you one. Pozole,
Okay.
Mexican pozole. It's so good. It's got hominy, which I think is related to the chickpea in some fashion. It's like a mix between a chickpea and a kernel of corn. So it's got that as like the base. It's got chicken stock. It's got tomatillo, poblano, jalapeno, cilantro, like rotisserie chicken. You take all that off the bone, put it in there. I'm leaving out a couple things, but yeah, that is a perfect like transition soup into soup season.
Nice.
Because it's not like hearty soup season yet. Like loaded baked potato when it's 70 degrees outside might not be the best thing in the world. Broccoli cheddar, maybe give that like start of October. I would have some broccoli cheddar going. Pozole, really good soup.
What's the best Halloween soup?
Ooh, Halloween soup. Broccoli cheddar's pretty good around Halloween. Squash.
A squash like a bisque?
Yeah, like a pumpkin bisque.
Ooh, a pumpkin bisque, yeah.
That's really good. Yeah, that's bisque season. I would even say like a lobster bisque around Halloween. That probably hits pretty good. A chowder, a clam chowder or a corn chowder around Halloween.
Yeah, I don't think I've had clam chowder since moving to Chicago. It's not really a spot where I think of grabbing a chowder.
Yeah, it's not. We're not close to any salt water.
Yeah. But here's the thing about, like if you go to a fancy restaurant in Chicago, the seafood is going to be like just as fresh as if you're on the East Coast. Because nowadays, like when they're out on a boat, a commercial fishing boat, they have to freeze all that as soon as they catch it.
Yeah.
That's how they preserve it. So like all seafood is frozen at some point.
Unless you're on the fishing charter and then you fillet it right there on the deck.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you can get really good seafood out here. I don't know if it's different getting oysters and shellfish and things like that, like a clam.
It's probably going to be more expensive.
Yeah. We're in soup season, baby. I can't wait to have I might go back on my soup and salad diet where I only eat soup and eat salad.
Mm-hmm. One more question. How long can you guys hold your breath?
Oh, that's a good question.
Underwater or right now?
No, not underwater, just like right now.
I think I could do a minute.
Okay.
I think I could for sure do a minute.
Yeah, I think you guys could. Normally I could probably do a minute and a half, but this guy taught me this breathing technique recently, like a week ago, and he like walked me through it, and then I ended up holding my breath for over 3 minutes. It was insane.
But you're breathing.
No. It was so for 10 minutes leading up to it, you're doing these like deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. And he like walked me through it. It was almost like a meditation. And then towards the end of it, he's like, all right, hold your next breath. And then I held it for over 3 minutes. And it wasn't hard. I felt like I could have kept going.
Is that what they do when they go on dives? Like, I think they call it oxygen packing.
Yeah.
You'll see people do these deep dives, and before they go in, they like load their body up with oxygen.
Yes.
And then it makes it
easier. So. Because I was like shocked. Like after, I didn't even know it was that long. And then afterwards, he was like, "Did you know you just held your breath for over 3 minutes?"
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I'm gonna practice that because then maybe I can become like a spearfisher.
Yeah. Yeah. You should do a spearfishing video.
I have actually. I went with Sydney Wells down in the Bahamas, and the hardest part was just holding your breath for that long, like in order to be calm down there and get a good shot.
Yeah. That must be exhilarating when you actually spear something.
Yeah. I speared spiny lobsters my first time, and that was incredible. I like wrestled it out of this sunken bus. It was it looked like a school bus underwater, and I got in the bus and speared it and then turned it into rangoons.
That feels a little dangerous to like go into a bus underwater with no air.
It was, and I was running out of air at the time, but like I had already shot it, but then I couldn't get it out of the crevice it was in. Mm-hmm. So I was just like wrestling with it. I was like, all right, I need air right now, but I also need to go to the surface with this lobster.
Yeah.
And so I just battled through it.
I love that. You go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to change the subject just a little bit about other underwater stuff.
Me too. What were you going to talk about?
Titanic, the Titan sub.
Me too.
Yeah. Have you been paying attention, Big J?
Yeah.
All right. So this is my new thing I've been getting really into is I've been watching like the U.S. Coast Guard hearings about the implosion of the Titan sub and watching the witnesses that are testifying, it's a crazy operation this guy had set up. Stockton Rush, the CEO of OceanGate, they've had employees of his, they've had customers of his, they've had other people that are in the submersible community testifying. They've had the people that helped him build the Titan sub that imploded. They've had them to help testify. This guy was insane. This guy was crazy. He like the corners that he cut. There were so many things that were wrong with the entire operation, not just the sub. What have you been seeing about Big T?
Well, I saw that the whole thing was run off of one Excel sheet.
Yeah.
And then you were talking about some of this guy's emails. He sent one to somebody who worked for him. I know that our engineering-focused, innovative approach, as opposed to an existing standards compliance-focused design process, flies in the face of the submersible orthodoxy, but that is the nature of innovation. I've grown tired of industry players who try to use a safety argument to stop innovation and new entrants from entering their small existing market. Since Guillermo and I started OceanGate, we have heard the baseless cries of "you are going to kill someone" way too often. I take this as a serious personal insult.
Yeah, I mean, I think safety regulations, when it comes to some things, could be overkill. And it's like, all right, you're trying to be too safe. But when it goes to making submersibles, trying to go to the bottom of the ocean, I don't think that's a time or place to cut corners.
Yeah, safety, like one small mistake, and then you just get you get atomized. You get turned into molecules.
Listen, I'm as small government guy as they come. When I'm getting on an airplane, I want the FAA to be quite strict in its safety precautions.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
And the way that this company was set up was crazy. So Stockton Rush wanted to take people under the ocean. Obviously, he wanted to explore the bottoms of the deepest places on Earth, but he was not a fan of spending money on engineering to do it safely. So he hired this guy named Lockridge, this Scottish guy. He was in the Navy in Scotland. He was a deep sea diver. He was a submersible pilot. He really knew all his shit. And this guy Lockridge spent time around the company and eventually was like, "You're going to kill somebody. You don't care about safety. Everything that you do is bad, and it's going to lead to a disaster." At one point, he went on a trip to the Andrea Doria, which is a wreck off the coast of Massachusetts, right? Yep. And it's not anywhere close to being as deep as the Titanic. I forget how deep it is, but maybe like a 300 meters deep, which is still, like, anything bad happens down there, you can die very easily. If there's like a breach, everybody's dead. But they went on this sub and they took a bunch of tourists down there, and Stockton steered the sub directly into the wreckage, got it stuck in the wreckage of the shipwreck, and then spent about 45 minutes trying to get out, and everybody on board was like freaking out, like, what the hell is going on? And then the real pilot who was on that trip was like, "Give me the controller, please. Let me get us out of here." He kept begging him, and Stockton was like, "No, I'm going to do this." Until one of the people on the sub, one of the customers, was like, "Dude, just give him the fucking controller." Stockton threw the controller at the guy. It hit the wall. One of the buttons came out. The pilot then had to reinstall the button, and in about 10, 15 minutes, he got them out of there and took them up to safety. And the guy was like, "You're going to kill somebody. You need to stop what you're doing right now." He filed a whistleblower complaint with OSHA, and spent the next 2 years trying to get OSHA to shut down this company, or at least look into it. OSHA got bogged down in the court system. They didn't have any good lawyers that had time to work on it. So nothing happened to this guy. So eventually, after like 3 years, he gave up his complaint because it was creating like too much stress on him and his family. And then the sub blew up. So they had that guy testify. They had some of the customers testify. And there's this one woman that testified. I forget her name. I need to look it up again. But she was a total psycho. She had been obsessed with the Titanic since she was 4 years old. She was a Titanic fangirl. I guess these people exist. There's like Titanic fanboys, Titanic fangirls who get obsessed with the lore and the story behind the Titanic. And it had been her dream since she was 4 years old to see the shipwreck. And she talked to Stockton, and he convinced her that he could help her see it. And he's like, "Okay, so I need you to be a mission specialist." and you can work with us and you can help us get to the Titanic. And so she described herself as a mission specialist, just like a NASA astronaut would be. And the only difference is she had absolutely zero training in submersibles. She was like a recreational diver. And she had to pay him hundreds of thousands of dollars. So not a passenger, by the way. You might think that in that business relationship, the person who pays the owner of the company $100,000 to take them down to see the Titanic, that would be a passenger, that would be a customer. But the way his business model was set up was he would gas up these people and talk to them how they're mission specialists. They're not passengers. So you are helping us do scientific exploration and learn about science. And they said, okay, what were your duties as a mission specialist? She was like, well, if somebody like needed a wrench and they would say, hand me that wrench, then I would reach and I'd grab that wrench and then I'd hand it to them. I would clean up on the base ship that we were taking out to the middle of the ocean before we got to the sub. I would help clean up after meals on that, essentially running it like a cult, except everybody that was there was paying them huge amounts of money. And they were just like big fans of Stockton and the Titanic. And to this day, they don't think that Stockton did anything wrong. So like it very easily could have been her that died. And she was like, this is all in the name of oceanic exploration. It's like, no, it's not. No, you didn't do any science. Her job was she would help track data on some of these dives. And Big T, you mentioned the spreadsheet. So if they saw like a fish, she would log, I just saw a fish at this point in the dive. And that was like the extent of their science. And the sub that he made with carbon fiber was like, it was insanely stupid to make it out of this stuff because it's not strong, it's lighter, and it's cheaper. That's why he used it. And if you have carbon fiber, anytime you like combine a bunch of materials together, you're going to get weak points, you're going to get fractures. If it's exposed to pressure, it might not fail the first time, but it's going to get weakened to the point where it will fail. He had a titanium, there was a titanium dome that was on it that you look through, like the porthole.
Yeah.
And on that dome, there were 18 places for bolts. He said, you know what? We don't need to use 18 bolts. We can use 4. So we'll just put 4 of those bolts in. And then when they brought it up to resurface the first time after going to the Titanic, the sub got dropped on the platform and the entire dome sheared off because there were only 4 bolts there. So then they had to figure out how to reinstall that. And Stockton was like, we don't need all the bolts in because when you're underwater, all the pressure is going to keep the dome locked in. So we don't need to really figure out a way to secure it because nature is going to take care of that for us.
Is he going to like go to jail?
Oh, he's dead.
He's dead. He was
on
the
it.
submersible.
He was on it. Yeah. So then they
got it. All right. I guess not.
They kept doing these dives after the entire titanium thing sheared off. And I think it might have been the next one, or maybe it was the second one after that. But all the dives, they would like lose communications. They would have the thrusters like just completely shut off. They'd lose control. They wouldn't be able to drop the weights. It was just every single trip they took, there was something bad. And so then on the last one, like 30 seconds after they dropped their weights, boom, it exploded. But I've also watched a lot of the animations, like the recreations of what it probably looked like when it happened, and they didn't feel anything.
I still don't understand that.
So all the pressure,
No, I get, like, I that was a poor way to say it. I do understand, like, what happened, why it happened. It just doesn't compute that, like, you can explode in a hundredth of a second.
So some people say that they got, like, burnt to a crisp. And because the temperature on the explosion was like hotter than the surface of the sun, which in theory is true. But if you've ever like taken a candle or like a small fire and like just ran your hand through it really quick, you don't really feel that much heat, right? If you do at all. So it's kind of that same principle where if it's just an instantaneous moment where it's as hot as the surface of the sun, it's not going to just vaporize. You're not going to like get turned into ash instantaneously. But it does kill you instantaneously. Like all that pressure just kills you. They found like some human remains down there, and you can see the different pieces of the sub that were still like relatively intact, but they were mangled. It was just like an instantaneous explosion where the thing imploded on itself, and then everyone's dead. So they didn't even have time to process. Their eyes didn't see it. They don't feel anything. They're just boom, dead in an instant.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All because this guy was just convinced that safety regulations for submersibles that's big government stepping in.
Thank God that's how they died, though. It was tough when we thought they were just slowly losing oxygen down there.
In retrospect, what a stupid that some people are like, well, they could be down there. Like, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a possibility.
I think that they just lost communications.
Yeah, or the motor stopped working. I don't know.
Yeah, then the U.S. Coast Guard said a week later that they have some sort of a listening monitoring device that picked up an explosion at that exact time, which is kind of crazy that we have microphones. I guess they're to detect subs and stuff, like enemy subs, but they knew almost right away, and the word didn't get out. But then there was that one report that came out saying that somebody heard loud banging sounds.
Yeah.
That was all bullshit. That never happened. I did see a interview with a guy who's talking about the disappearance of MH370, the Malaysian air flight, and he was like, the government knows exactly what happened. We heard the OceanGate sub explode, but you're telling me that we can't monitor where a plane is in the sky. And it's like, well, there's a difference there. We're actively monitoring for Russian submarines. So also the ocean, it is big and it is deep, but if you are monitoring, I guess that there's less area to monitor in the water than there is in all the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then, once the plane did crash, it's still, because I think they found pieces of the plane, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it didn't completely disappear.
In Madagascar and Tanzania. But there are some people now that are saying that that's a fake plane that they found. It wasn't the actual plane.
Yeah. And that it was warped into a different dimension.
It is funny though that the people that went on the Titan sub are obsessed with the Titanic, and the story behind the Titanic is all about hubris and ignoring safety regulations, and that's why it sunk. And then they were on board a ship that ignored safety regulations and had a CEO who was just full of all this hubris, and then that exploded, and now they're part of the Titanic wreck.
The saddest part is that one of the guys who was obsessed with the Titanic, forced his son to come along. And his son did not give a fuck about the Titanic. And his son was like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's going to be the perfect father-son activity. I really want you there with me.
Yeah, that part's very sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, Titanic fan people, they exist. Don't trust them. Never trust a Titanic fan person. I wonder if there's going to be an expedition in 100 years that people are obsessed with the Titan sub exploding, and they want to go down and see the wreckage of the Titan sub, and then they go down there and then they explode. It's just a big chain reaction of people.
Who would you rather spend a week in lockdown with, a rabid Disney adult or an extreme Titanic person?
Ooh, I think they're very similar. I would say Titan. Yeah, the Titanic person, probably.
Okay. Why?
More interesting facts.
Sure.
The facts about the Disney theme parks and the different food that they have and the changes to the roller coasters that they've made. I don't think I could have a conversation about that.
Yeah.
But Titanic, I could have a conversation about Titanic. I've seen the boobs. I watched the movie.
Nice.
Yeah. Are you guys obsessed with the Titanic, Mad Dog McKenzie?
Not at all.
Do you know anyone who's ever been a big fan?
I don't think so.
I don't think that's as big of a thing in girlhood as you guys think it is. I mean,
I don't think we think it is at all.
No.
I think it can be a fangirl or it can be a fanboy, but the ones who are really into it are psychos.
No. I mean, when you're 13 and watch the movie for the first time and you're like, oh my God. But
Never seen it.
You've never seen the movie?
No.
It's good.
Big T, you got to watch Titanic.
It's just one of those that slip through the cracks.
I think it holds up.
Yeah.
And at this point, I don't care about the Titanic. I know what happens in the movie.
I cared more about young Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet in the movie than I ever cared about the actual ship.
It was an all-time binder movie. And by that, I mean girls got so obsessed with that movie that they would just print out stills from it and keep it in their Trapper Keepers.
Was that a thing?
Oh, yeah.
What a callback.
Oh, yeah. I knew so many girls that had like pictures of Leonardo DiCaprio wearing his tuxedo, pictures of the Titanic, Kate Winslet. That was decorate your locker with.
I was gonna say the locker. Yeah.
Yeah, are you still allowed to decorate lockers?
I haven't had a locker.
Probably not because of woke.
COVID.
Yeah.
I don't even know. Do kids still have lockers?
Yeah.
Like, I remember when I was in school, it was like for 1 year you like got assigned one, and then after that it was optional, and it was like kind of a real pain in the ass to have one. It was easier to just carry all your shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
we
I
just had a
used one for like
backpack.
1 year, and that was it.
I
Yeah.
loved my locker. It was like a safe space.
It was just cool to have a place where you could go hang out with your friends. That's what it was.
When you guys were in high school, would you see people shoved into lockers?
No.
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 Never saw anyone shoved into a locker.
I've never seen a locker that's the full length.
What?
They're always half.
Mine was in high school. Mine was full.
See, I never used a locker in high school. I never knew anyone that did either.
Wait, so would you just carry around all of your books all the time? Wasn't your backpack heavy?
A little, but I also didn't really
was also
carry
jacked.
most of the books.
Oh.
I just kind of.
Oh yeah, no, I'm going in between classes. I'm switching out my books. And then you would have like magnets on the front of them for like what sport team you were on.
I lied. I did see somebody shoved into a locker at one point.
Was it you?
No, it was one of my friends, but they did it like intentionally. They're like, it'd be funny. See if you can put me in this locker and then lock it.
Okay.
And then we did. Then we let him out. And that's the end of that story. It was not like a bullying thing.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
It's more of just an experiment to see if it would work.
Wait, can I ask a question about boys?
Yes.
Like
Classic.
Yeah, that's so Mad Dog.
No, but like when you were in high school, like were you guys like did you have like sport team lockers like in your like gym locker, like on the football team or something, and you would like go and hang out and like
There were
is that a thing? Is that like a part of your culture?
I had 2 lockers.
You had
One
school locker and sport locker.
school locker, and then the other was in like the gym locker room area. And we would go in there, and that was where all football stuff was.
Do boys just like? I didn't go to high school with boys, so I don't know. But like, would boys just like hang out and like do like dude stuff like in the movies? And like walk around. Like, do you guys like? Would you guys like walk around like in towels and stuff?
Only if you like just showered.
But like that was a thing.
We didn't have a communal shower room in high school.
That's probably smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, that feels like
Yeah, that would have been weird. I think people are way too like uncomfortable
that
in high
always
school
got me.
to be
I'm like,
doing group showers.
yeah, I can't believe that like high school boys showered with each other.
So in our locker room, I don't know how it is at other places, but we did have like the dividers. So
Okay.
it wasn't like a giant room that you were just showering in.
Okay.
But I guess it was a giant room that you were showering in, but you weren't
Just
like
with dividers.
looking at people. Well, you couldn't see anybody if they were showering.
Like I'm thinking of Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
And like their vibe was like they're all just walking around in towels all the time.
No, I mean you would shower and then you would put your towel on and then you'd go to your locker and then you'd put your clothes on. So I guess
That's normal.
Yeah, it was
I feel
pretty.
like.
I honestly still think that it's weird that like college football players and NFL players shower in a big giant open room together.
It's such a preventable. You could just put up stalls.
Put up a shower stall. Yeah, put up
Yeah.
small dividers.
I've never understood that either.
Well, that's
Yeah.
a woke thing. It's now we have to have dividers in our locker rooms. Dudes can't shower with dudes anymore.
Yeah, I just have never gotten the like dudes showering together thing.
We had a shower in middle school that did not have dividers
What are you showering in middle school for?
after gym class.
What?
That's outrageous.
Nobody showered.
Yeah.
I
can imagine.
I don't think anybody ever used it. We would just be sweaty, and then you'd put on your real clothes and go back to your day.
But how
Yeah.
sweaty are you getting during gym class?
If you play,
You were a gym
What
class
a
hero.
what a I don't know the word I'm looking for. Loser question.
yeah, it's a loser question. Very sweaty.
Tell me you were never kicking ass in dodgeball without telling me.
Yeah, Mad Dog. It would be track day, and Mad Dog would just sit down on the bleachers, wearing her clothes, and then her teacher would be like, "Come on, let's run a lap, Mad Dog," and she'd be like, "No, I'm just gonna stay up here and chat."
Oh no, I was a tryhard when it came to like the the presidential fitness test. I was doing the chin-ups like a madman.
Yeah, but
But,
that's not the same as like, okay, we're gonna go out and we're gonna play this weird game that we invented that only our school has, and you're gonna slide around on the knee boards. You weren't really trying then.
Not enough to get work up a sweat in like a 45-minute gym class. No, I don't think I was.
Yeah, we were sweating.
We in grade school, we kept our gym clothes on all day. So there wasn't even no changing. Like, you just had to sit in that.
We would just after gym class go to the locker room. I would towel off so I wouldn't have any sweat on. I would reapply deodorant and then I would put my clothes on.
That's more than most 13-year-old boys are doing.
Maybe. I was
Reapplying
also
deodorant is definitely not something every 13-year-old boy.
I was a little bit bashful. I didn't have armpit hair when I was in middle school. I had hair underneath one armpit, under my right one, not under my left. And then my locker was right next to this guy named Ali, and Ali was like 6'4" in 8th grade, full beard, full chest hair. And so I would go to my locker and then as quick as I could, just put my shirt on. There was actually this one girl I had a big crush on, and she lived in my neighborhood growing up. And so my buddy, actually the Beeve and I, we would like hang out with her sometimes. And we got a kiddie pool. There was a kiddie pool that was actually, it was hers, I think. It was in her backyard. And so we'd go over, hang out with her, and I'd have like my arm around her at some points.
Sick.
But I would do it, I would make sure that it was always the arm that had armpit hair that she could see, so she couldn't see. The arm that was around her was the bald one. I was like, she'll be super impressed if she knows I've got armpit hair. She'll think I got 2 full bushes of armpit hair when she can only see one. Yeah. That was good. That was fun.
Yeah, no,
Okay, Thomas Jefferson. Let's get to Thomas Jefferson.
TJ.
Old TJ. TJ, and it's brought to you by our good friends over at Nutrafol. Are you interested in having hair that grows faster, stronger, and longer? Are you interested in having visible, thicker volume? Are you interested in experiencing less shedding, thicker lashes, and thicker brows? All this is possible with Nutrafol. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1 million people. You can see thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. I got to get on Nutrafol now. Now that I've got my my brand new old hair growing in, I want that shit to be thick. Gonna get thick with Nutrafol. Thinning hair is different from men and women, so one-size-fits-all approach to hair growth doesn't cut it. With a Nutrafol subscription, building a hair growth routine is simple. Purchase it online, no prescription required. Automated deliveries and free shipping keep you on track. Plus, you can save up to 20%. Have access to free naturopathic doctor consults, and a Headspace membership is included. Get results you can run your fingers through. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription, and you get free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter promo code DOSE. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code DOSE. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code DOSE to get $10 off your first month subscription. And you get free shipping. Promo code DOSE at Nutrafol.com. One other thing I want to just talk on briefly before Thomas Jefferson. It does have to do with the hair. So in the hair, what is it? I guess it's a procedure that I had. Part of it is they put a line of stitches in the back of my head. And I just got those stitches taken out. I was supposed to do it 10 days after the procedure. So I was in Austin. I go to a doctor in Austin. And it was like one of those like urgent care places. Minute Clinic.
Yeah.
And they told me when I got the procedure done, they're like, yeah, you can just go to Minute Clinic because it's just stitches and you can have them removed there. So I go to this Minute Clinic and I get taken to the room by the doctor, and she was like asking me about the procedure. She's like, I think I need that too. My hair's getting a little thin. She seemed okay. She seemed friendly. And then I laid down and she looks at my stitches and she goes, oh my God. And that's not something you ever want to hear your doctor say to you, is, oh my God. And I was like, what, is everything okay? And she's like, no, it's fine. I don't know how to remove these. Like, how many stitches are there? I was like, I think it's just like a knot at each end and then one stitch that goes back and forth through it. And she's like, okay. Then she starts looking around more and she says, oh my God, again. I was like, what's the problem? And she's like, no, nothing. I'm just a little confused. But she keeps saying, oh my God. And then all the red flags were going up. Like, she does not have any confidence at all in her ability. So she starts trying to take the stitches out.
Oh, no.
And she keeps getting flustered. And she's like, I just don't know. Oh my God, what is this? What is this? Oh my God, what's that? She keeps saying, oh my God, while looking at my head. And I'm like, do you want me to call the doctor that did the procedure? And he can explain to you like how to take these out. So I got on speakerphone and he was like, yeah, it's just a normal suture and shouldn't be any different from taking out any other stitches. And she was so confused. She didn't know what was happening. And meanwhile, she's having me hold up a flashlight on the back of my head, which is very hard to do. And I'm like, the flashlight's drifting a little bit because I can't see the back of my own head.
Right.
And then she keeps saying, like, she keeps grabbing my arm and like pulling. She's like, you need to hold this better. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I've been doing this for 40 minutes. My arm's kind of tired. I can't see where it is. And eventually she asked me to call my doctor again. So I get on the phone with my doctor again. She's taken out maybe like, I don't know, 2 tiny little strands so far. We're making no progress. At one point she says, you might have to come back for a couple more sessions.
What?
And I was like, I don't think that this is a session.
How did they not send you to like a hair place here?
Well, so the doctor, when I had it done initially, was like, yeah, you can go to any medical place at all and they'll know how to take it out. It's just normal stitch. It has nothing to do with like the grafts of hair or whatever. It was just like,
you learned that like week 2 of medical school.
Doctors for sure, but those are like nurse practitioners.
But this, no, she was a doctor.
At the Minute Clinic?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, she was a doctor.
They're usually nurse practitioners.
Nope, she was a doctor. I made sure when I scheduled the appointment that she was a doctor. And it has nothing to do with the actual procedure. There's nothing different about it.
Right.
It's just a stitch line. So, get back on the phone, talk to my doctor, and she's asking all the questions that he had answered the first time, to the point where I'm like stepping in and explaining what the doctor is saying. And then my doctor goes, hey, PFT, you still on the line right now? And I was like, yep, I'm still on speaker. And he's like, I want to say this as diplomatically and professionally as possible. You might want to consider seeing a different medical provider to perform this operation, because I don't think that she's got a lot of confidence in herself. And I at that point, I'd already been thinking about it since like the first 5 minutes where I need to get out of here. But when they're working on your head, you can't be like, no, I'm done. And also, I didn't know if they like started and then stopped the procedure, if I would like start bleeding or anything like that, if there was anything weird where I couldn't leave and then fly. And I didn't know. I thought maybe I had to finish what I started. And he was like, yeah, maybe you should consider seeing somebody else. And so then I hang up and I'm like, you know what? I feel like you're overwhelmed right now. You've never done this before, so I think I will see somebody else. She's like, stop right there. And she leaves. She brings another doctor back in. And she's like, do you know how to do this? And the doctor looks at her. He's like, yeah, it's just stitches. And she's like, do you think maybe you could take them out for him? And the doctor's like, well, I'm seeing patient right now. I don't have the time to like just leave my patient and come in here. She's like, what about on your lunch break? Can you do it on your lunch break? And he's like, yeah, I guess I could. But he's uncomfortable too. And I'm picking up on that. And she's like, maybe you could do it on your lunch break and I could watch you. And I was, at that point, he said, okay. And I was like, okay, I'll come back in 45 minutes and you can take the stitches out. And then I go up to the front desk and I was like, hey, can you just tell them that something came up? I'm not going to be able to come back in 45 minutes. So I just got the fuck out of there. And then I went back to Chicago and saw a real doctor. And it took about 15 minutes and it was the easiest thing ever.
That woman was a medical doctor?
So I don't think she was actually a doctor.
There's no chance.
I think that this is some sort of Catch Me If You Can moment where she had lied. And I guess her big scheme in Catch Me If You Can, he lied and was like a surgeon and doing all this crazy. She lied to the point where now she's working in a Minute Clinic and that's like her dream.
Do you remember her name?
I can
do you remember what like Minute Clinic it was?
I don't want to say it out loud, but yes.
We'll we'll cut it.
I know exactly what it was. I can give you her full information here.
Because I want to.
I think
even if you're a nurse and not a doctor, taking out stitches is
Should still be very normal.
Yeah, it's something that like every nurse knows.
When I had the stitches taken out from my elbow surgery, it was a nurse that came in and did it. Super easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, Big T, I can text it to you.
How long did it take? Because you said she never started it.
No, she started it.
Oh, but how long was this going on?
Probably about an hour.
An hour?
Yeah, I'd say 45 minutes to an hour.
And how many stitches did she remove?
I'd say a grand total of about 3 centimeters of stitches.
That's so crazy.
Maybe 4. So yeah, I guess the moral of that story is if alarm bells are going off, trust yourself.
Yeah.
And just leave. But I felt bad. It was like, okay, she's a professional.
That would be like a funny bit though. A doctor who's just like everything he sees, he's just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
That was the worst part. Like that's day one, what they
I
should
know.
teach you in medical school, right? Don't say, oh my God, when you look at a patient.
If you come in with like a sore throat, you open your mouth and you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Looks like it hurts.
I was thinking the worst. I was thinking like, do I have an infection?
Yeah.
Did they fuck it up somehow? Do I have like a terrible stitch job done?
Couple things.
Yeah.
She is a nurse practitioner, not a doctor.
So she's not.
Did she tell you she was a doctor?
Yes.
But
She said that?
Yes.
Well, she is very much a nurse practitioner.
well, a nurse practitioner should be able to do that. For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But definitely not a doctor. I'm looking more into her past.
Okay. That was quick, Big T.
I mean, literally, you Google her name and every single thing says NP.
Okay.
Definitely not a doctor.
She referred to herself as doctor.
She has a couple master's degrees. I guess, is that what you get to be a nurse practitioner?
That's good. Yeah. All right. So, but yeah, good news is I'm good to go. And everything was completely normal about my head. All right.
Nice.
You know one guy that didn't need to have stitches taken out of his head? Thomas Jefferson.
Do we know that?
Because he wore a powdered wig.
Ah, true.
Yeah. Old TJ.
Now, did he wear a powdered wig because he had syphilis, as a lot of people did back in the day?
Possibly. A bunch of dudes back then had it, right? It was like very, very common.
Yeah.
Was he getting busy in France like Ben Franklin was?
He did make several trips to France, yeah. So I would imagine.
Yeah, well, he actually lived in France for a while because he was the United States ambassador to France.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I asked. I think he took over for Franklin.
How long would it take you to travel across the Atlantic at that point?
I think it had gotten faster from like the Pilgrim days. Maybe 2 weeks.
That's not bad.
Yeah. 2 to 3.
That's not bad at all.
Apparently, I was reading when he was in France as the ambassador, he was there when like the revolution was happening.
Yeah.
And from his apartment, he had views of the guillotine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that probably left a lasting impact on him.
Yeah.
It took Ben Franklin 38 days to get to Paris. Or to get to France, to the town of Quiberon.
You got to be so horny to chill on a ship for 38 days.
That's...
You could probably find some hoes on the ship.
You think there are hoes going to France?
I mean, of course.
I think it was mostly dudes
Dudes going to France?
for the hoes.
Well, you could, yeah, unless you had a wife. Like, I assume you could bring your wife on the boat.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, that's a long way to go just because you love French women.
38
5
days.
weeks.
That's, damn, it was still that long?
I think it's pretty horny to spend like over a month on a ship just to go have sex. Were there no women in the United States?
Well, I think they were going on business, in quotation marks.
Yeah.
And
Again, it's like how every place has conventions in Las Vegas
Right.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to go spend a week in Vegas, for work.
Were French women seen as like more loose back in the day?
I think they were more liberated.
Mm.
Yeah. I think that was probably a big part to do with it. But yeah, Thomas Jefferson, really tall guy. He was like 6'3", which was a giant for back then.
You don't hear about him. You only hear about Lincoln.
Yeah, well, the top hat. The top hat helps too.
True.
I saw a guy at the airport yesterday wearing a top hat. Like an old guy. I'm talking stovepipe. Probably like 9 inches on this thing. Nobody wears a top hat anymore.
Was he like Amish?
I don't think he was on. I think that was just his thing. He's wearing like a normal button-up shirt.
Respect, I guess.
Top hat.
Got that shit on.
Got that shit on. I would like to become a top hat guy. People might start thinking I'm taller. Yeah, so he was big, tall guy. Slept in a really small bed too, which he said was good for circulation. He also had a lot of beefs. Thomas Jefferson had multiple beefs. He had a beef with Abe Lincoln.
Yeah, but so they weren't alive at the same time, though. Just like, I think Lincoln just hated Jefferson.
Hated him.
Hated everything he stood for. Because I think Jefferson thought the future of the country would just be farming, and farming was the most virtuous thing you could do.
Yeah.
And Lincoln grew up on a farm, and he was like, it was just a bunch of drunks. Like, it sucked. Like,
yeah.
Farming's not the future.
Yeah, Thomas Jefferson, when he went to college, Thomas Jefferson got really into the theory of farming. So Jefferson grew up, his family had a whole bunch of land. He had a bunch of slaves that were part of the estate. And one of his best friends growing up was a slave that was around the same age as him. His name was Jupiter. And this was like Thomas Jefferson's friend. I say friend like in quotes because I don't think that Jupiter had a choice of whether or not to be Thomas Jefferson's friend.
Yeah.
But they were like boys that were the same age that grew up like hanging out a lot together.
Mm-hmm.
And Jupiter actually, they had a really strange relationship because Jefferson over the course of his life sucked with money. He got into a lot of debt. He never had money to pay for anything really. And he would like borrow money from Jupiter, who was a slave, to pay for stuff. So like when Thomas Jefferson went off to college, Jupiter helped him buy his books, buy his like room and board and shit like that, which seems like completely backwards.
How did a slave have more money than Jefferson?
I don't know. So Jupiter, from what I know, he was he worked more like in the house, and he wasn't out in the fields working. And so typically those slaves were like favored by the slave owners, and they would get extra perks, and I guess if you call them perks, but they would get stuff that the slaves in the field would not get. They were like closer to the family and would be given stuff sometimes as a reward. So Jupiter had some money, and he would like pay for Thomas Jefferson's textbooks. And while Thomas Jefferson was in college, he got really into reading this old Roman guy. I forget the dude's name, but this old Roman writer was obsessed with the idea of farming. And so Thomas Jefferson would read about him, and then he would get also really into the concept of farming, like in theory. He didn't want to be doing any of the actual work, but he's like, yeah, it's so great just working the land. And then, yeah, Lincoln found out about his obsession with farming. It was like he was full of shit. He was an actual farmer. And if you'd actually ever worked on a farm, you would absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
I kind of identify with that. Like, I wish I was a little more redneck.
Yeah.
Like, I love the idea of being like a redneck rancher farmer, but I'm not really that, but I appreciate it.
But you want to like have elements of that identity without actually working.
Yes, like one of my best friends lives on a like legit farm, I'm like, hey, you want to get on PlayStation? He's like, yeah, I'll be on in 30 minutes. I'm tending to the cows. Like, he does that shit for real. And I like the idea of that without having to actually do it.
It's cool that he's saying, like, I'll be on later because I got to do farm work. Like, that
Yes.
sounds cool to you, but you wouldn't actually want to go out and
Precisely.
have to, like, chop a bunch of wood or
Exactly.
clear brush or milk a cow for an hour every morning.
Right.
Yeah, I know. I agree with that. Like, it's getting your hands dirty. You want to be eligible to sign up for farmersonly.com, but you don't actually want to do the work.
Sure.
Yeah.
I wonder, does Farmers Only, do they have, like, a process where they exclude people who aren't farmers?
It's a good question. I don't know if that website's still around.
You don't have
I would
to
imagine
be
it.
lonely.
At
There's like a
farmersonly.com.
farmers only dating show.
Yeah, my
Farmer
friend.
wants a wife. We've been
Yeah.
trying to sign him up for it.
My friend works on it. Oh, send me his name. They're casting it now.
Are
but-
you
let's
serious?
go.
I'm being dead
Oh,
serious.
I'm dead serious.
I
We're
told
gonna
her
get.
I want to be a contestant on it. She's like, no, they literally live in like the middle of nowhere and like they work on a farm. I'm like,
First of all,
yeah, I wanna
no,
be
they
on
don't.
it.
There was a guy on it this year from Mount Juliet, Tennessee, which is where I'm from.
It's not nowhere.
And now he was,
Okay, fair.
and this buddy that I'm talking about, he said that this guy was a fake redneck, and that he was actually really
Oh.
rich, and like his family had a farm that he never did anything on, and then he got on the show.
Not enough of a vetting process.
Mackenzie, I'm sending you this guy's information right now.
Do you have to be a female farmer to be on farmersonly.com, or is it if you just want to meet a farmer?
Only.
No.
I think if you just want to meet a farmer.
Yeah, farmer wants a wife. Never said farmer wants a farmer wife.
Got it.
I would love to farm for a year and then call it quits. Just have 1 year where I only eat food that I grow or kill.
I feel like you have to farm for 2 years to get to that point, right? Because you got
have to have a harvest.
you got to plant.
Yeah, you got to plant, but if you plant in the spring, then you can reap all the harvest in the late fall. Yeah, so maybe a year and a half or something.
Year and a half. Give yourself a little leeway.
We're so far removed from our food supply these days.
It is crazy, right?
Yeah. It used to be if you had one drought or one bad crop, like you're fucked.
Yeah. Now it's like the store is your farm.
Yep.
And you go and you procure your produce that has come from somewhere and you don't know where it's been. It would be fun, I think, to just grow all your own shit. But again, that might be one of those in theory things.
Yeah.
Where then you start doing the actual work and you're like, I dislike slaughtering my own cows.
Yeah, but a cow's so big, if you were just feeding yourself and your family, you could probably just kill one cow and live off that for
That's very true. You get plenty of meat from that.
months.
So yeah, he was obsessed with the idea of farming, and Lincoln hated that. Lincoln also hated the fact that Jefferson had children with his slaves, aka raped his slaves. So he would have Sally Hemings was one of his slaves that he had some kind of relationship with,
because his wife died young. And
Yeah.
then I think after his wife died, he just started banging his slave, and I think had a lot of kids with her.
Yeah, and so Lincoln thought it was detestable that he had repulsive liaisons with his slaves while continually pulling about liberty, equality, and the degrading curse of slavery. Which that's a fair criticism of Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson is like obsessed with liberty, freedom, and then meanwhile he owned slaves for his entire life.
Yeah. And he didn't, when he died, he freed all the children that he had with that one slave, but he didn't free any of the other slaves.
Any of the other ones, yeah. And I think a lot of them were sold to different plantations to like pay off all the debt that he had while he was still alive. Thomas Jefferson loved those who labor in the earth as being the chosen people of God, if he ever had a chosen people. He despised the selfish spirit of commerce for feeling no passion or principle but that of gain. He regarded banks with suspicion as the source of all commercial evil. Banks may be considered as a primary source of paper speculation and only foster the spirit of gambling in paper and lands, in town lot schemes, manufacturing schemes, and whatever could hit the madness of the day. So basically, Thomas Jefferson was saying that the only true value in life is that from a man who works his own soil and produces his own food and his own wealth that way. So yeah, Lincoln, as you said, he grew up on a farm and hated the mind-numbing labor and the drunkenness of the people that worked there. So it was like, yeah, you wouldn't be saying this about farming if you lived it.
Yeah, he had slaves working his fields.
Yeah, so Jefferson, as we said, he was very bad with money. So he did inherit some debt from his father-in-law in 1774, but his father-in-law was also like very wealthy. So he got a lot of stuff from his father-in-law, but also along with that came all the debt. Jefferson also spent a shitload of money and had very expensive tastes. He liked to fancy himself as being a man of the arts. He liked painting, sculptures, wine, furniture, musical instruments, and fine clothing. And he didn't know how to spend his money properly. He kept obsessive notes about most things in his life, but he didn't really keep a ledger of his money at all. And so during his 8 years as president, his wine collection set him back $10,000. That's $150,000 in today's money. And he co-signed a loan for a friend in 1818 for $20,000. His friend then passed away, and Jefferson had to take on all the unpaid debt. So to reduce that debt and to help the nation's capital rebuild after the War of 1812, he sold his personal library of 6,707 books to the Library of Congress for $23,000. So he died with the equivalent of $3 million of debt.
Yeah, and then his son had to pay that off. Does it still work like that today? Do you inherit your parents' debts?
I think, yeah, it goes somewhere.
Yeah.
It goes to like your next closest relative if you have debt when you die, yeah.
Yeah, you do. And it's the same thing as like inheriting anything that they own. It's like, yeah, it's yours. And if they own money on it, then you have to pay it off.
What if you were like paying off your parents' college loans?
Yeah, that's probably going to happen.
Yeah.
Like pay off your loans now, people, because your grandchildren might have to pay, which is actually kind of awesome. Like I'm paying off my grandfather's student loan debt right now.
I couldn't go to college. I had to just get like a job right out of high school so I could start paying off my dad's college debts.
Yeah, and he dropped out, which sucks.
Yeah.
So one of his other beefs was with John Adams. And fun fact about them, Thomas Jefferson died on July 4th. John Adams died on the exact same day, even though they hated each other throughout their life. It was the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, which they both signed. And there was an election campaign in 1800 that pitted the two of them against each other. So they stopped talking altogether. And it was 12 years where they just didn't talk at all, even though they had been great friends.
There was at one point, though, when John Adams was the president, Thomas Jefferson was the VP, because how it used to work back then, the runner-up always became the VP.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to do it.
We should bring that back.
See how they get along, yeah.
Yeah, like
can you imagine
if Kamala wins, she can still have Trump as a VP.
I think we all agree that would be the funnier of the outcomes, right?
Yeah.
If Trump had to work for Kamala Harris.
That would be, I mean, in theory, it makes sense, like, because then it's like you might have contrasting, but it's like those are the two most popular people in the country.
Yeah.
Do you know the craziest part about when they died?
Go on, tell me.
This is one of my favorite historical facts. John Adams' supposed last words were, "And Jefferson lives." He hated him so much that his last words were thinking about the fact that Thomas Jefferson was going to live longer than him. Mm-hmm. And Thomas Jefferson had actually died like 4 hours before.
But he never knew.
Yeah.
He died thinking
He died thinking with hate in his heart that Thomas Jefferson was going to live longer than him. And it turns out he had died the same day before.
I respect that as a beef.
Yeah. No, I kind of love it.
I really do.
I think like during their campaign, Thomas Jefferson called John Adams a hermaphrodite. So that was like the first really contentious presidential election where they were just slinging mud at each other.
I love that. Yeah, it was during the 1800 campaign. They called him a hermaphrodite. According to the historian Suetonius, an enemy of Julius Caesar one time called him every woman's man and every man's woman. And so they're thinking that Thomas Jefferson, being a real big fan of the Roman Empire, like Thomas Jefferson thought about the Roman Empire all day, every day. He was obsessed with it. He stole a bunch of their ideas when he founded when he helped write the Declaration of Independence and putting together the new government. He lifted a lot of that from ancient Roman times. And so they're thinking that he stole that insult that they used to Caesar to put on John Adams. There was John Adams was he had a supporter who was the president of Yale, and he publicly suggested that were Jefferson to become president, would see our wives and daughters the victims of legal prostitution. So it's like the rhetoric back then is just as bad as it is right now.
Yeah.
And then there was a Connecticut newspaper that warned that electing Jefferson would create a nation where murder, robbery, rape, adultery, and incest will be openly taught and practiced. Basically saying like, hey, you better vote for John Adams or else all your worst fears are going to come true. Thomas Jefferson's on the $2 bill, but not always. So it was first introduced in 1862. And it had a portrait of Alexander Hamilton on the bill, a different one than the one that's on the $10 bill. And by 1869, the $2 bill was redesigned with the portrait of Thomas Jefferson. For a while, the bills were called Toms, like how we say Benjamins for $100 bills.
Yeah, Tom's.
Tom's was a $2 bill. Do you guys see a $2 bill?
No,
Have you ever seen one?
Well, I have before. You know who the most ardent users of $2 bills are?
Mm-hmm.
Wozniak, right?
Oh, I don't know, maybe, but it's the Clemson football team.
Yep.
Yes, yep.
Clemson travels around with $2 bills with little paw prints stamped on them.
Their fans do.
Yeah, and they like give them to people and use them when they travel for away games and stuff.
They do it to show the positive economic impact of having Clemson come to your town.
Is that actually what it is?
Yeah. Look at all these $2 bills that we've given you. We've
That
really
are
helped
fucking
you out.
useless.
Yeah, we've really helped you out.
Oh, well, you can still use them.
Yeah, I know. It's just I mean, I haven't seen someone use one in 20 years.
So I guess Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple, he legally prints his own $2 bills.
Does he have a mint?
I guess he got a printer in his town to make perforated sheets of $2 bills. He says they meet the specs of the U.S. government, so by law they are legal tender. How does he do that legally? I mean, I'd have to read this entire article. I'm sure he pays for them. But
Does he pay like more money? Like, does he end up
he
losing money?
Yeah, he
printing his own money.
He has to be losing money on this, but he's just a quirky guy.
That's how you know you've got it made, when you're spending money just to have cooler designs of your own money.
Yeah, he just wants to be known as the $2 bill guy.
So, you know how $2 bills kind of fell out of favor? Because it doesn't really make sense that $1 bills would be around all the time and $2 bills aren't anywhere, right?
Yeah. Now that like with inflation, I feel like there'd be a lot more use for a $2 bill.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Instead of a single, why not just have two singles in one?
Yeah.
It actually fell out of favor during the Great Depression and right after the Great Depression. So the $2 bill had a branding crisis because $2 is the approximate sum that most people would pay for any sort of like recreational gambling. So if you'd be playing dominoes or a dice game or something like that, you'd bet $2 bills. A lot of like prostitutes, their price was $2. So it became called a whore note. That's what they'd call them. So it went from being a Tom, like you got any Toms on you, to do you have any of those whore notes on you? And so then people just stopped using them because they'd be afraid that if people saw them walking around town with a bunch of $2 bills, they're like, this guy is a whore. And that's
this guy loves his whores.
Or he's always staying ready to see a whore because he's got all these $2 bills on him.
A $2 whore.
$2 whore, yeah. But yeah, I would occasionally see $2 bills growing up, but I haven't seen one in a long time.
No, but I think if you go to the bank, you can ask for them.
You probably could, right?
Yeah.
If you go to the bank and ask them to get like $100 worth of pennies, are they legally obligated to do that?
At least they were in the past, unless they were like, all right, this is bullshit. We're going to.
Well, they have them like rolled, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think they could do that pretty easily.
So you can just take all the pennies from a bank?
Maybe they would say, like, we need to keep some. I don't know if you.
Do you think you could survive for like 2 weeks if you had to pay for everything using pennies?
2 weeks? Yeah. As long as you don't have to pay like rent or something. Like you could. It would really suck.
Yeah. I imagine a lot of businesses would be like, no, I don't want to take $20 worth of pennies from you.
Yeah, I don't know. You'd have to buy everything in very small increments.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't go spend $100 at the grocery store. You'd have to buy everything you needed each day.
Yeah. Ramen. What's ramen? Like
$1 usually.
$1, maybe 50 cents some places.
50-cent ramen. I think it's going to be more these days.
Is it? Price went up?
Yeah. I mean, I still lived in a time when there was penny candy. I think there was a store in my town when I was young. They had these little like fruit flavored Tootsie Rolls that you could get for a penny.
That's crazy.
That is
that
nuts.
makes you sound old as fuck.
I mean, I'm younger than PFT, but maybe it was 2 cents.
That's crazy though.
Yeah, penny candy. It was more like a reason to get you in the store. Like if you can get penny candy, then maybe you also need to buy a soda. You got to buy a sandwich, and your kids get the penny candy. And then what it is your kids always want to go to that store.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like marketing.
It's a sweet story.
How old were Coca-Colas when y'all were growing up? How much? Did I say how old?
Yeah, for like what size?
I don't know, 12 ounce regularly?
Like a can?
Yeah.
Can was like, I'd say 75 cents, 79 cents.
Okay.
That sounds about right.
What about you?
Maybe $1.
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just remember for a while, like every time it went up 5 cents, people had a conniption.
Yeah, the 20 ounces, you would go usually like $1.29, 99 cents sometimes if they were on sale. For a while, I think maybe the best like prize giveaway that they had was Sprite had a bottle cap game.
Oh, yeah.
Where it was like 1 out of every 6 Sprites, if you look under the cap, it was another Sprite.
That rocks.
And so at one point, I went back, I was at 7-Eleven, I bought a Sprite, looked under the cap, I get another free Sprite. I go claim my free Sprite immediately, look under that cap, and I got another free Sprite.
White Boy Rick told Paige and myself the other day that the caffeine in Sprite doesn't affect him. That he drinks a Sprite and doesn't feel anything.
He's built different.
And we had to inform him that that's because it does not have caffeine in it.
That's awesome. What was his reaction?
He was like, "Are you serious?"
How do you not know that Sprite doesn't have caffeine?
I was like, very famously, kind of the most known thing about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it is. But like Mountain Dew has a lot of caffeine where I used to think I was like, all right, if it's a dark cola, it's got caffeine. If it's a light like cola,
Citrusy,
yeah,
you're good.
Mhm.
But not with Mountain Dew.
And Sunkist
Does not.
has.
Sunkist has caffeine.
Sunkist Orange has caffeine.
Did not know that.
Barks Root Beer has caffeine.
I knew that.
I think that's the only one that's
It's
got
dark.
But Mug Root Beer does not.
Does not.
Oh shit! It's
I'm
a lot more complicated.
More of a mug man myself.
Are you really?
I honestly, I don't know that I could point out the difference, but
I'm a big fan. What's the one that's got the crow on it? It's made with honey.
Crow.
Sprecher's?
Never heard of
Sprecher's Root Beer is the best. Yeah. Sprecher's it's top
Never
tier.
had it.
All right, so more stuff about TJ. When his dad died, Peter Jefferson, he gave Thomas 21 horses, 53 slaves, and he left his wife the house and lands at Shadwell. That's where he was born. After his father's death, Jefferson sought out a tutor. He loved having tutors. That's where he started to learn about Roman literature, natural history, and then there were other children that boarded with Thomas Jefferson, and they threatened to burst his house at the seams. There were so many kids living in that place. So he was also one of, I believe, 10 children. So there were a lot of, he was in a jam-packed house a lot. Then he decided to apply for William and Mary College in Williamsburg. Jefferson got in, and while at college, he made good friends with his professor, William Small. So William Small was both his professor and also like a father figure to him. And he taught Jefferson about deism when it comes to religion, taught him about the Roman Empire, taught him about just basically everything that Thomas Jefferson would get obsessed with for the rest of his life. He picked up with his professor of mathematics, William Small, at William and Mary. And my theory on Thomas Jefferson is that a lot of his inventions he just took from other people and then claimed that he invented.
So I don't think he ever claimed to have invented this, but he was the one who brought ice cream to the U.S.
Yes, he popularized it.
Which I'm sure Big T is thrilled about.
Would you rather have written the Declaration of Independence or invented / popularized ice cream?
Ice cream.
I feel like that, we talked the other day about the 3 things he wanted written on his gravestone. I think that should have been the 4th.
So what were the 3 things?
The author of the Declaration of Independence, author of the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom, and founder of the University of Virginia.
I would take out University of Virginia and I would replace that with ice cream.
Yeah, kind of a, I mean, with all the conference realignment, kind of a lost school at this point.
They could still call themselves the Ivy League of the South.
But now, I mean...
But he didn't invent ice cream, though. I don't think he can claim it.
Right.
So he found out about ice cream when he was a diplomat in France. It was in the late 1700s. And so then he brought back a shitload of stuff from France and then showed it to people in the United States. It was like, look what I have. And he had let's see, shipped back with France. They were a quart moule a glace, 4 ice molds with other ice cream making tools. And then he served ice cream at the White House during his time as president.
I mean, like, ice cream must have been a big deal back then because that was before freezers, refrigeration. So when he just breaks that out at a party, like, it had to blow people's minds.
Yeah, they thought he was a magician, basically, because he'd have summer parties at the White House, and then he'd serve ice cream, and they're like, how is this possible? Can you imagine just how like, shitty it was to drink cold or drink warm drinks, like warm beer, warm water all the time?
Yeah.
It's like hot outside. There was no way to get it cold.
That's what they do in China.
Everything's like room temperature?
Yeah. They actually believe that, like, really cold water is bad for you. So, and that, like, if you drink warm water, it's easier on your digestive tract. It's better for your health.
I think that is kind of true.
I think it is kind of true, but, like, who doesn't enjoy a cold glass of water on a hot day? And they still, like, they serve their water warm.
Even when it's, like, like if I've been outside and sweating, obviously I want a cold water. But if I'm just in my house, I prefer room temp water. Yeah,
I think it's easier to get rehydrated if it's room temperature water because otherwise your body expends energy trying to, like, warm it up so that it can digest it properly.
Yeah.
Thomas Jefferson was afraid of public speaking. He had a wimpy little voice, much like Abraham Lincoln, who had a wimpy little voice. But Abe Lincoln was not afraid of. In fact, he loved speaking in public. But Thomas Jefferson, he was afraid of conflict. He didn't like to argue with people, and he didn't like to speak in public either.
How differently do you think we would look at a lot of the founding fathers if we could have heard them speak?
Very different.
Because, like, everything seems so eloquent when it's written, and, like, we revere them as these, and they were, like, very brilliant men, but, like, we don't really have an idea. We've seen every dumb thing that Trump and Kamala have ever said.
Yeah, I think they were keyboard warriors.
A little bit.
They were. They would take their time. They would write something out. They would publish it, and everybody would be like, "Oh wow, this guy is forming a great argument here." And
although, in fairness, the biggest thing that Jefferson ever wrote, we did back up.
The Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, we did have to go fight after that.
That's true.
And we kicked ass against the greatest military the world had ever known.
That's true. Well, we had some help too.
Sure.
From the French.
And he repaid that.
He did repay that. And then he absolutely fleeced them.
Yeah.
Maybe the biggest fleecing in world history, in trade history.
Could be.
I'm trying to think what else would qualify this. What would qualify to be a bigger,
the biggest fleecing?
A bigger fleece, yeah.
Louisiana Purchase.
Well, that's what this is.
Dog,
yeah.
I have some amazing news for you.
We bought Alaska for very cheap, and then we found a bunch of, like, oils and minerals.
That's true. Yeah, they called that Seward's folly at the time. They like the press roasted them. They're like, "How could you spend millions of dollars on Alaska? There's nothing up there." Yeah. And actually, I just pretty much added 33% to the landmass of the United States, got us very close to one of our future enemies, and we also have enough oil to pay for everything.
Yeah.
So folly my ass.
$15 million, which is $350 today
for the Louisiana Purchase.
So you can either have, like, Dak Prescott for several years or half of the United States.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So Napoleon wanted 22 mil. This is how the negotiation went down. Napoleon says there's 830,000 square miles. We own the Louisiana. We own that entire territory. And I am starting a land war in Europe, and I need money to pay for all my shit in this war. And then Jefferson sent James Monroe and Robert Livingston to do the negotiation. So Monroe had the authority to spend up to $10 million to acquire New Orleans and all parts of Florida. Eventually, the U.S. spent $15 million to acquire the whole of the 830,000 square miles. So we were willing to go all the way up to $10 million for the city of New Orleans and then parts of Florida. And we ended up just getting almost double our country size.
Yeah. I mean, Napoleon must have really needed the money. I think this was around the time where there was the slave rebellion in Haiti as well, which was a French territory. And so he also, like, needed money to quell that.
He was quelling a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And at that point, he was like, Haiti's making a lot of money because of all the sugar plantations. We don't have like shit going on in the Louisiana Purchase because like they're running out of furs or whatever.
Yeah, they've shot all the beaver.
Yeah, they shot all the beavers. Like I don't need this land anymore.
Yeah,
All the beavers are gone.
That's goes down as one of the great trade deals of all time. Although at the time they were saying, like his political opponents were saying, you don't have the authority to do this.
Yeah.
Because it's not in the Constitution for the president to just be like, hey, guess what? Our country's bigger now. Can you imagine if that happened nowadays? Like if like hypothetically,
Trump, I guess, like wanted to buy Greenland.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
I'd be down for that.
Because in like 60 years, it's going to be more livable up there.
Yeah, but if Kamala tried to buy like half of Canada, they would be like, she's just buying more votes.
Yes.
All the libs. She buys French Canada. She buys like Montreal, Quebec. They're like, well, you're just doing this to bring in the Frenchy left vote.
Yeah. But they would say the same thing if she tried to buy half of Mexico.
That's true. Yeah. I'm all in favor, by the way, of growing the brand.
Growing the U.S.?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Grant tried to acquire the Dominican Republic for the U.S., and he was all for it, but it fell through.
He got shot down?
Yeah, I think the rest of the country wasn't on board.
Yeah, so they ratified the purchase after 2 days in Congress. The Senate voted 24-7, and the treaty was signed on Halloween 1803. And then some of the political opponents, the Federalists, they saw the Louisiana Purchase as unconstitutional, but it never got brought to court. I wonder if there's still any people out there that are still anti-Louisiana Purchase, like they refuse to recognize it as part of the United States because according to the letter of the law, like the sovereign citizens, if you get arrested and you're in Nebraska, you're like, well, guess what? You have no jurisdiction because you're not part of the United States. You can't arrest me.
I know we talked about how he brought ice cream to the U.S., but we need to mention he also brought macaroni and cheese to the U.S.
That's pretty good. So again, like these are two things that I would like to be known for if I was Thomas Jefferson: ice cream and mac and cheese. Like every 8-year-old in America, if they knew this about Thomas Jefferson, he'd be a superhero.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and he got that from Paris, and I guess he like brought back the Parmesan and the pasta. It doesn't seem like a very complicated thing to make, but
wait,
no one thought about
it. This might be fake news. Monticello.org is saying it's fake news.
Monticello.org. I mean, it sounds kind of legit.
What are they saying?
In February 1789, William Short wrote to Thomas Jefferson that at Jefferson's request, he had procured a, quote, mold for making macaroni in Naples and had it forwarded to his mentor in Paris. The macaroni mold probably did not reach Paris until after Jefferson had departed. His belongings were shipped to Philadelphia in 1790, and the machine was probably included with those. We know Jefferson had the machine in the United States eventually, as it's mentioned in a packing list with other household items shipped to Monticello in 1793. But then it says that Jefferson was not the first to introduce macaroni with or without cheese to America, nor did he invent the recipe as some have claimed. A recipe for macaroni in Jefferson's own hands survives, although it was most likely dictated to him by one of his enslaved chefs or butlers.
But he kind of took credit for it.
So it seemed like maybe he liked it. I don't know.
I think it was his enslaved cook who made it for him in France, and then he was like, "We need to bring this back to the U.S."
Okay.
Same thing with like the dumbwaiter.
The dumbwaiter, yes, he invented the dumbwaiter, and it was apparently because he didn't want to see his slaves. He was like, it's kind of awkward, like seeing the slaves like come out and serve us food.
It's unbecoming.
Yeah.
We just put it in this thing and then it disappears and then food comes out later in this thing that I turn.
And then I can kind of pretend in my own mind that I don't have an army of slaves in the basement.
Yeah. So he I guess popularized a lot of things, and that ended up having people like give him credit for it. But he didn't really invent that stuff. He would travel sometimes, and then he'd take things from Europe and then bring them back to the U.S. and be like, "Look what I invented, everyone! Isn't this great?"
I mean that's if you go somewhere that no one else has ever been, and you find something, and then you're the only person in where you're going back to that knows about it, and you bring it back, you can take a little bit of credit for that. Finder's fee.
Yeah. I mean, there are some things that he actually claims to have invented. Like, I guess he invented the revolving chair, so we can thank him for the chairs that we're on right now.
Really?
I mean, that's what, yeah. He's widely credited with inventing the swivel chair, which he called the revolving Windsor armchair.
This guy had some good ideas. Some bad stuff too, but some really good ideas.
I mean, I'm very impressed with the ice cream and mac and cheese.
Ice cream, mac and cheese, swivel chair, Declaration of Independence.
It doesn't take a genius to try ice cream and mac and cheese and be like, this is good. Why can't we make this in the U.S.?
That's a good point. He just had access to mac and cheese before anybody else did.
Yeah.
If he really did invent the swivel chair, though, that's A+
That's
stuff.
huge. And apparently the folding ladder, too, which I'm reading. Those are pretty clutch. And the folding camp stool.
Nice. He was big in seating.
Is it the original Tommy Bahama?
Like explain that
camp
one to
stool,
me.
like the Tommy Bahama chairs that you see everywhere.
Oh, I thought Tommy Bahama just made shirts.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Oh no, brother!
I don't know about this.
You got to go to the beach. If you're not anybody if you don't have a Tommy Bahama beach chair, especially at the Jersey Shore.
Right.
And all the other competing brands, they have like their logos on the back in the Tommy Bahama font. So from a long ways away, people look at it, they're like, oh, they've got a Tommy Bahama chair, but it's not.
Is this a bougie thing?
I don't think Jersey Shore is very bougie.
Okay, so I know the style of chair you're talking about. I obviously know what it is. I did not know these were made by Tommy Bahama.
Yeah.
Those are the ones with you can put it on your back, like it's a backpack too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They've
Some
got
of
a
them
cooler
have a
built
cooler,
in.
yeah.
The coolers are nice.
Wait, they have a cooler built into the chair?
A little side cooler.
Back, yeah.
Hold about like 5 or 6 beers.
That's not a bad gig.
No, it's not so bad. So, you know what was a bad gig was working for Thomas Jefferson as one of his slaves.
True.
And we've talked about his hypocrisy, like writing all this shit about man's freedom and how God has dictated that every man, woman, child should be free. And then meanwhile, he has his own slaves. Now, he did try to outlaw, I guess in theory, he was opposed to slavery.
Yeah, he knew it was wrong, but he was like, I'm already in too deep.
And I've got all this debt, so what are you going to do?
Yeah. But, I mean, one thing, he did predict the Civil War. He was like, slavery in like, whether it's 50 years, 100 years, it's going to lead to like a huge divide and like states are going to try to succeed from the Union.
Yeah. And he tried to ban the importation of new slaves.
Yeah.
But he was saying if you got them, like hypothetically, if you're a guy that's got a bunch of them, you don't need to give them up. But just don't let anybody else enjoy having the luxury of free labor that I have.
Yeah, and he's like, if there's a new state in the country, slavery should be banned.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not going to be sustainable long term. I think so. The actual quote, what he said about slavery, is what did he say? He goes, "This momentous question, like a fire bell in the night, awakened and filled me with terror. I considered it at once as the knell of the Union." So I don't really know what a knell means, but like it could
death knell.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like it's gonna lead to the collapse of the country in the future. It's got to be tough. I'm just trying to think like I'm sure you guys have done something in life where you're like, okay, this isn't a problem now, but I can see this like in 4 years down the line, this is going to be a huge problem.
Yeah, like the food that I enjoy sometimes.
Yeah.
The occasional beer or 3.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that we've done in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
I feel good about this right now.
Yeah.
Will I feel good about this later? You can't think that far in advance.
No.
So back to his public speaking thing. Apparently at his inaugural address in 1801, one of his friends, Margaret Baird Smith, wrote, "The speech was delivered in so low of a tone that very few people heard it." So his buddy said that. Other observers said that the address was only partly audible. People thought that Jefferson was very, very smart, but Patrick Henry was the better orator of the two. And as a young lawyer, Jefferson was respected for his knowledge of the law. He studied like land law. So that was a real big thing back then. He helped to actually survey the entire state of Virginia and draw the boundaries for it. So if you had, that was a lot of power that you had. So land law was being like, you were really doing something if you were a land lawyer. But again, not known as a great speaker. John Adams said of Jefferson during his time in the Continental Congress that Mr. Jefferson had been about a year a member of Congress, but had attended his duty in the House, but a very small part of the time. And when there, he had never spoken in public. During the whole time I sat with him in Congress, I never heard him utter 3 sentences together. The most of a speech he ever made in my hearing was a gross insult on religion, in 1 or 2 sentences for which I gave him immediately the reprehension which he richly merited. That's a great way of being like, yo, he spoke out of turn. I told him to shut the fuck up, and he deserved it.
Yeah, he didn't actually believe that Jesus was a godlike figure. He believed he was just a great philosopher.
Yeah.
And so he wrote his own version of the Bible where like he took out all mentions that Jesus was divine.
And yeah, that goes into his like deism, where he just like kind of believed in God and a bunch of other people that had helped promote the idea of God.
Yeah.
He had a Quran that he studied as well. I think when the first Muslim member of Congress was sworn in, I think they were sworn in on a copy of Thomas Jefferson's, or not a copy, the actual Quran that Thomas Jefferson owned.
Oh, shit.
So in case anybody gave him any shit about it, it's like, actually, this belonged to Thomas Jefferson, founding father. He also wrote Notes on the State of Virginia in 1785. He finished the first version in 1871, and then he updated it and made it bigger. It's a compilation of data by Jefferson about the state's natural resources and economy, and his vigorous argument about the nature of the good society, which he believed to be incarnated by Virginia. He thought that Virginia was something special, which I kind of agreed with him on that. In that, he talked about the separation of church and state, constitutional government, checks and balances, and individual liberty. So, Big T, my favorite part of the Constitution is the part about separation of church and state.
Right.
Do you agree?
We're not doing this.
People always say like it's not in the Constitution. Yes, those phrases, or that phrase, not in the Constitution, but it is in the subtext of the Constitution, and it's written by the same guy that wrote extensively about how important it was. He also wrote extensively about slavery, while also justifying his white supremacy beliefs, which he did have. He said that whites and blacks could not coexist in a society in which blacks were free. He also talked about how bad they smelled and how sweaty and unbecoming, and how bad they looked. And it's one of the more racist documents that you'll ever read, if you do happen to check that out. He's like, they produce a foul odor. And his most common interactions with black people were after they were working as slaves on his own plantation for him out in the sun all day. He's like, these people, they don't smell great. Yeah, no shit, dude. But he was very proud of Notes on the State of Virginia.
I think the most damning thing I read about, well, obviously that his whole racist tirade against slaves that's the most damning thing about him. He was also anti-dogs, or at least he kind of flip-flopped on dogs. I think he loved shepherds when he was in Europe and like tried to bring some shepherds back to the US. He was like, these dogs are great. But later in life, he kind of like turned on dogs, and he's quoted as saying, I participate in all your hostilities towards dogs and would readily join in any plan for exterminating the whole race.
What the fuck?
Yeah. I think like maybe some dogs like killed one of his sheeps, and that just, he was like, all right, I'm out on dogs.
I'm out on dogs entirely?
Yeah.
But to say that he wants to kill every dog?
He said he would readily join any plan for exterminating the whole race.
Except shame Arian's not here.
Yeah, Arian would love him.
Yeah.
Arian would be like, who's to say whether
complicated or not man
Thomas Jefferson was good or bad? Yeah. He was also a pedophile.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of damning.
When he started his relationship with Sally Hemings, she was somewhere between 14 and 16 years old, and Thomas Jefferson was in his mid-40s. When Sally was 14, she traveled with Jefferson's daughter, Maria, to Paris, where Thomas Jefferson was serving as the U.S. minister to France. While he was there, Sally worked as a maid for Maria and her older sister. At some point during their 2 years in Paris, Thomas started a sexual relationship with Sally. At that point, he was in his mid-40s. Historians also believe that Sally Hemings and Thomas Jefferson's wife, Martha Wales, were half-sisters. Martha's father, John Wales, had a relationship with Sally's mother, Elizabeth Hemings. So Martha Wales died in 1782 at the age of 33, 2 years before Thomas Jefferson started having sex with her alleged half-sister, who was around the age of 14. I think he also may have started courting Sally, or not Sally, his wife Martha. I think he started courting her when she was like 15 or 16 years old too.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't that disturbingly commonplace back then?
I think it was pretty common, yeah. But I don't think having like mid-40s and a 14-year-old was common back then. I think it was more common like early 20s and a 14-year-old.
Okay. But I wonder when the age of consent was put into law.
Imagine that debate. Because at some point they had to like actually discuss and argue about it.
Yeah.
Like what age? Can we all agree? Like no one wanted to speak first in that debate, right?
Yeah.
Like if you would have to be like, what about 20? Oh, okay, yeah, 20. 20 works. And then one other guy being like, well, what about 18? Some 18-year-olds look like 20-year-olds. And then everybody else in the room was like, yeah, he makes some good points. Let's listen to this guy. And then there's probably one real creep in there that spoke up. And they're like, no.
Jesus.
Not 12.
I mean, I was just reading in 1880, most states set the age of consent at 10 or 12, with the exception of Delaware, which set it at 7.
What the fuck, Delaware?
What the fuck?
What?
And then 1920, they upped the age of consent to 16. 21 states then had the age of consent at 18, and Georgia kept it at 14.
So when it got updated, they made the jump from 7 to 20?
7 to 16, probably.
7 to 6. I want to see who was against changing that law.
7 is infinitely worse than not having one.
Yes, I agree.
Like way worse.
I agree, because if you don't have the law, then it's like, okay, honor system, everybody. Let's be reasonable.
We didn't think we'd have to do this.
Yeah, 7 is like, that means that there at one point there was a person saying, listen, not a 6-year-old.
Right.
You know? Like 7's bad. Bunch of perverts in Delaware.
I mean, that shit, like, they couldn't even argue like procreation or something like that, because at age 7 you're not even like able to have kids
remotely.
Yeah. And it actually wasn't until 1995 that Georgia raised its age of consent from 14 to 16.
Let's go, Georgia.
Yeah, a little late, but
I think there's some states that have this is disgusting. They call them Romeo and Juliet laws. Because in theory, according to these states, like an older man can be in love with a younger woman, she could be genuinely in love with him. So like if we're going to say no to this, then we'd be saying no to Romeo and Juliet, the greatest love story ever told.
Now, maybe I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. My understanding of those laws is that if it's like an 18-year-old and a 17-year-old.
Yeah, where
it's not like
if you're within like 2 years or something.
Yeah, I don't think it can be like bad.
Like prove that you're in love. Prove that this would be a great love story to tell.
Yeah. Because if it's a 17 and an 18-year-old that have been dating for 4 years or something like that, like that's, and if it's consensual, is that okay? Or could you still be like, no, it's statutory?
I think the way that it works, I'm looking it up right now. This is not a good Google search to have in my history, by the way. Romeo and Juliet laws.
Yeah.
It says in Michigan, a 15-year-old could have sex with a 13-year-old without being charged with statutory rape, but a 17-year-old could not. So it's about like age difference.
Okay.
I think I want to say in Virginia when I was growing up, it was like 18 and 16 might have been okay.
Mm-hmm.
Those are 2 big years, though. Jefferson was also a pre-internet meme. So in the mid-1800s, whenever somebody needed to leave abruptly due to embarrassment, they would say, "My name is Haynes," and that was code for like I gotta go because I just fucked up. What would be the modern day equivalent? Like if you,
I'll see myself out.
yeah,
Maybe
I'll see myself out, or like OPE.
Yeah.
OPE. So it was the phrase "My name is Haynes" was based on a story involving Thomas Jefferson that was in newspapers in the 1840s. It was first in the Weekly Picayune on February 17th, 1840. There was a story that a man named Haynes encountered Thomas Jefferson while traveling on horseback near Monticello. Haynes supposedly was a member of the rival political party and began to trash Jefferson and all of his policies, not realizing that the man before him was actually Thomas Jefferson, though the president didn't bother to argue with him. The two pulled up to Monticello, where Jefferson invited him in for some refreshments. At that point, Haynes asked the man his name, and when it is revealed that it is Thomas Jefferson, Haynes becomes flabbergasted and said, "Well, my name is Haynes," before putting his spurs to his horse and departing. Thomas Jefferson does not record that encounter himself, but the story it bears resemblance to other stories about ordinary citizens unknowingly encountering Jefferson during his presidency. And as we talked about, Jefferson was not really a fan of arguing or really standing up for himself at all in public. And so it would make sense that somebody would be like trashing the shit out of him. And then later on being like, hey, yeah, I'm that guy that you hate. Like later on.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say anything. Someone was like shitting on me about knowing who I was.
Yeah.
I think I would just like let it go and learn what the folks are saying about me.
Yeah. Has that ever happened to you, Big T?
Not in person.
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of. No.
No.
There was a time, I think it was on, what was it? It might have been Surviving Barstool when I was on that season. And somebody like said to me, it was kind of similar to like what happened to Jerry, but like we were in a room, we're like, so who are we voting out? And somebody was like, I'm voting out PFT. And I was like, oh, really? And they didn't realize I was there. And then they were like, oh, well, yeah, I guess I just said it. Kind of weird, but it's actually perfectly the story about Jerry, where he's like, I'm Jerry.
Is this guy on Pluto?
This guy's on Pluto. So yeah, Jefferson brought a lot of good stuff to America, wrote that whole Declaration of Independence thing, which he kind of lifted a lot from the Roman Empire. Oh, by the way, did you know that when Ho Chi Minh, the leader of Vietnam,
yeah,
when he was making the case for starting a war with France to declare their own independence, he gave a speech, and it was the first, I think, 3 lines of it were the Declaration of Independence, because he was a big Thomas Jefferson fan. So he loved like American history. And then eventually after the French got out of there, he was like, well, actually, no, America's not good.
Yeah, no, he was very pro-U.S. until the U.S. was like, yeah, we're just going to take over for France here in the war.
Yeah. Thomas Jefferson, yeah. I would give him a 9 out of 10 on Scumbags, and then I would also give him a 9 out of 10 on starting new countries. If we're looking at his Madden rating.
Yeah, a 9 out of 10 for food.
Yeah.
Taste some food.
He did everything to the max.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
He didn't half-ass anything.
He was, yeah. So if we're building Thomas Jefferson on Madden, his attributes, he gets 9 out of 10 on height.
99 speed, but 99 fumble.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Because apparently he was the first person to really like popularize tomatoes too, or not, like he would serve tomatoes at the White House and people were shocked because I guess back then people thought they were poisonous.
Yeah.
I think it comes from, tomatoes are members of the nightshade family,
which is a very menacing sounding name, isn't it?
Yeah, because like, and there are types of nightshades that are poisonous, but it's like people were shocked when they learned that Jefferson was serving such dangerous fruit at White House dinners. Yet the meals tasted so good that critics actually claimed Jefferson was using food to buy political influence.
Because his meals were that awesome?
Yeah, and that he would serve tomatoes.
Well, I don't have any like actual evidence of this, but I think that people were sick of Thomas Jefferson by the time he was out of office, because the next guy they elected was the complete opposite of Thomas Jefferson in most ways. It was James Madison, and Thomas Jefferson was 6'3". James Madison, I believe, was 5'3". He was the shortest president. There's a very funny statue of him on JMU's campus. It's life size.
Yep.
And it's the most unimpressive statue you've ever seen. It's just this tiny, tiny little guy. And he was a great speaker. They said he had the silver tongue, and Thomas Jefferson was a bad speaker. So they're like, I don't care if he's 5 feet tall. I just want a guy that can talk to me.
And can you name the political parties back then? Like Thomas Jefferson, he was a...
Was he a Federalist?
No, the Federalists hated him, I think.
Yeah, so he was... So
Hamilton was a Federalist.
So does that mean James Madison was a Federalist?
I believe he was a Federalist, yeah.
And so I think maybe he was a Whig. Was it like the Federalists and the Whigs?
Or maybe the Democratic Republicans?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was the Southern Party.
Yep, that was him. Democratic Republican. Great logo for that, by the way. It's the Target logo, except with a blue bullseye. That's probably where the bunting comes from, that people hang up around the 4th of July. Or at baseball games. All right. Thomas Jefferson. I would say, I think that's a good way to describe it. God, when he was making them, just ran out of attribute points because he loaded up on all the early ones. So he had nothing left for morals.
Yeah.
But he was really good at talking about morals.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, this is like a small plus, but at least he was able to say slavery's bad, but what am I going to do about it? There are a lot of people that were just like, slavery is the best thing ever.
Yeah. He was like, what can one man possibly do about ending slavery? And then his slaves were like, you wrote the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, like you could free all of us at least.
Yeah, like maybe just us.
Yeah, and he was like, no, I'm only going to free the kids I've had with slaves.
He was probably like, the pen is mightier than the sword. If I write enough about how bad slavery is, that's much better than doing anything about it.
Yeah.
Did he fight in the Revolutionary War?
If he didn't, I wonder what his was he just not a fighter? Because
I believe he was.
I don't think he did.
In France.
Oh, he did not directly fight. But how many of the founding fathers did fight? I guess most of them did.
Washington Hamilton.
Fought, yeah.
Was Washington a founding father, or was he just the one the founding fathers hired to be the general?
I think he's a muscle.
Army?
He was a puppet.
Yeah. But yeah, he didn't.
It says he did not fight.
Yeah,
in
he
the
didn't. But I wonder.
Revolutionary
Yeah, so he had zero combat experience or action in his whole life, I think.
He said that he helped organize a militia.
War. Yeah, he mobilized the militia to reinforce the Continental Army in the Southern Campaign, which ended at the Yorktown. And then also it's quoted that Jefferson explained that he knew he was no military man. He was a planter and a scientist and an intellectual, not a warrior. It was best, he reasoned, to have a seasoned general take over.
Oh, not me.
I'll mess this up. Y'all don't want me.
Yeah. Come on. I just create more harm than good.
You don't want me to take out the trash. I always do it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So
Weaponized incompetence is what they call that.
he was the start of the phone tree. You probably don't know what a phone tree is, Big T.
I do not.
But he was the start of the phone tree for that militia. So when we were growing up playing youth sports, if like practice was going to be canceled, or if there was a game that was going to be canceled, there was a phone tree. And so your coach would call one person, and then that person would then call two people, and then those two people would also call two people until everybody had been informed. But it was like a set line of how this was going to get around.
Yeah, that must have been a nightmare.
Yeah. And then sometimes you would like leave your house before you found out the game was canceled. You'd show up and you'd be like the only person there. Like, oh, I guess we're not playing today.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, things were different back then.
He was the first president to use the Marines, I believe, when he sent the Marines on a mission to subdue the Barbary pirates.
Yeah.
Because they were just like robbing all the U.S. merchant ships, and they were like, "You need to pay us tribute if like your ships are going to pass through the Mediterranean or whatever." And I think he was like, yeah, it was the first Barbary War, and he sent the Marines, and I think it was the first time the U.S. Marines were ever used. Chaps could elaborate, but there's like a Marine song, and it's like they talk about the Barbary pirates.
Yeah, where they list like all their battles from the short to the shores of Tripoli.
Yeah, the shores of Tripoli is a reference to that.
The Marines' hymn From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we fight our country's battles in the air, on land, and sea. Let's see, do they talk about the pirates?
I wonder if that was America's first foreign intervention after gaining independence. I think it was.
You had to be feeling yourself at that point. You're like, you know what? We just beat the British. We can beat a bunch of lousy pirates. I'm looking up to see if there's any. I don't see any reference to.
But he was the one who decided that. So that I guess that was the one war he oversaw.
I mean, Tripoli might be a reference to that because isn't Tripoli on the Mediterranean?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is.
That would make sense. Tripoli. All right, Thomas Jefferson.
Cool.
All right, we learned some fun facts about old TJ today.
TJ.
All right, we will see you guys next Tuesday on Nanodosing. Love you guys.